Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'd like to call the Board of Trustees meeting to order for June the 22nd at 9 a.m. straight up. Before we call a quorum and call to order, I need to let everybody know that Mr. Frias was in a very serious accident last night and he will not be attending today. We wish our best for Mr. Frias and prayers go out. He had emergency surgery last night and he's going to be out for quite a while. And I'd like to also announce that Mr. Pat Allen is a brand new grandfather today. Had a new baby boy last night.
That's correct.
Yeah, congratulations. So
Do we get an opportunity to vote on naming? Nicholas is a strong name. I'm just throwing
I'm
that out
going to
there.
defer to Mr. Allen on that one.
I wasn't even consulted, so, which is okay.
All right, good morning. I'd like to establish that we have a quorum present minus Mr. Frias. Do I hear a motion to excuse Mr. Frias?
I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Frias.
Second.
Seconded, Ms. Miller. All those in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Frias is excused. Would you all bow your heads with me for a moment of prayer, and then we'll have our Pledge of Allegiance. Father God, thank you for the faithful servants you brought together to fulfill your purpose. We ask you to give us wisdom, patience, and guidance as we plan for the future. Please be with John Frias. Give him healing and comfort during his recuperation. Jesus taught us to seek you first in all things. He said in Matthew 6:33, seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. As we begin our planning, help us first seek you and your will. Help us to respect one another and work together. We give you the glory for everything that is accomplished. In Jesus' name, amen. Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sam, do I have a public comment list? Are you going to manage that for me? There was no names on the list for public comment this morning. I thought I saw Mr. Rose's name on it. Oh, and Miss Miller? Absolutely. It's all right. GVSUD welcomes public participation. If you're unable to attend the meeting, a written comment can be emailed or delivered to GVSUD's public information officer with your name and the topic or agenda item that you wish to address to Tracy Rapmund, or delivered to the district office here in Marion. Written comments must be submitted and received no later than 3 p.m. on June 21st, 2023. Please remember that public comment is limited to 3 minutes per person. Time may not be shared or ceded to another citizen. Mr. Rose?
Morning. I'd heard rumor that you were missing me getting up to speak, so I thought I would get up this morning. With the new Taj now open, I felt it was time to review some of the issues raised by the ratepayers and responses we got from the old guard and staff prior to construction. Compare those answers against the actual results. The comments are not directed at the newest board members or Mr. Sherman, as they had nothing to do with its design or the responses the ratepayers received on this new Taj. This should be my last comment on this area, as there is nothing this new board can do about this issue. Number one, when questions were asked about the purpose of the SCADA room, the response was that it was a 24/7, 365 control system with a minimum of 1 employee. Even though an area in the SCADA was and is still defined as a break room, we were told it was not a break facility and would not be used for such. The refrigerator was to be used as housing test samples. I guess the key word not used in response was the SCADA was a future, I repeat, future 24/7, 365 area, and not to be used as described until much later date. The March 23 employee list only shows 1 treatment plant operator and 1 treatment plant supervisor, while the January 23 employee assignment layout shows 2 treatment operators assigned to the SCADA. I'm really confused. as I would have thought the treatment operators would have been working at the treatment facility, but I guess they could do their job remotely. But I'm really confused how two staff members can run a 24/7, 365 operation. I would also mention that the responses also stated that SCADA would be housed in the wastewater treatment plant with the lab. Something kind of stinks here. Number two, I would like to compliment whoever designed all the landscaping around the new building. It's truly beautiful, but the real question is who's going to maintain it all? How much water is it going to take to keep all those plants and flowers alive? Number three, who in the world thought we needed double glass windows looking to the room for the executive conference rooms right over our shoulders here, folks? They put hanging drapes on this side to close it off, and on the other side, vertical blinds that are also closed. What in the world were you thinking? Obviously not about the ratepayers' money. Number four, the question was asked, why would there be a need for 20 covered parking places next to the headquarters facility, the ones just out the window right there, folks? The response was, it's a covered area for company-owned vehicles. Would anyone care to join me during the next break and we walk out there and see how many vehicles that are parked there this morning are really Green Valley company-owned vehicles? We knew this was a lie when we got the response, but until you start using the parking facility, we couldn't prove it. I'm sure the excuse now is you didn't have that many company-owned vehicles to park there, so you're going to let employees park there. I have no problem with that, but we were lied to again. It was always going to be used for some employee parking and a few Green Valley SUD employees. Folks, you lied to us, you lied to us, you lied to us. Not only that, you documented it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rose. Ms. Miller?
I just wanted to thank the people for the last board meeting. It was our first board meeting here in the building, and it went amazing. Everybody worked hard. Everybody did what they were supposed to. There was, other than Hendrix's little mishap, it worked well. So I just wanted to say thank you, staff, for all of your hard work to get us in this building and get it functioning. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Miller. Any other comments before we move forward? Thank you very much. Let's move on to item D, the consent agenda. All items listed below are considered to be routine and non-controversial by the board and will be approved by one motion. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which case the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered and action taken as necessary as part of the order of business. Board meetings, financial report, cash investment, balance sheet, check detail. Do I have a motion?
Can I pull items D2 and 5, please?
D2 and D5.
And then I'll make a motion to approve items D1, 3, and 4.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Mr. Sherman?
Yes, sir. Item D2.
Mr. King.
Let me find my note here on item D2. So I had a question on line items 900, 700, and 900, 800. Those had gone down from a previous billing. What was that a reimbursement that we received on the plant upgrades and line construction, or was something reallocated elsewhere? Pam, you're coming up, you know the answer.
Yes, after going through some of the GLs, we noticed there was a few items that needed to be reallocated to a different GL account. So it was just posted incorrectly. And so as we were going through those, as you will see with when we get to the capital budget side of it, we just reallocated some of those numbers to put them where they belonged.
Right, and
So
those were a couple of the ones that I'm focusing in on that we have, a higher percentage, a much higher
Yeah,
percentage.
yes, sir. Yes, sir. We didn't remove anything. We just reallocated it.
Reallocated it
Yes.
to the correct line item.
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct. Now, if you ask me exactly everything that was I couldn't unless I looked into it further, but that's what we have done.
Not today, thank you.
Okay.
And then I have no further questions on that item, if anybody else did.
On item D2?
Yes, sir.
Any other questions, concerns? Mr. Sherman, go on to
And then
D5.
on the check detail, I had a question about 19,592 unbilled labor from 10/1/21 through 11/2/22. Sorry, I apologize. Didn't
No,
make-
that's, I just want to, I didn't know if it was gonna be that simple to answer. That particular invoice is from Alamo Communications, and they are a great company to work with. They have supported us tremendously. However, on their invoicing, he is not real quick to invoice. And he's notorious about invoicing us for items that he may have done the year before he finally gets to it, puts it all on paper and invoices us. We've
So-
talked to him about it, but those are still trickling in. And we pay them as we go, but that's for like a year and a half or over a year of work that they've done.
So they didn't bill us at all.
They
for
did
a
not
year.
bill us at all for the labor, no, sir.
So what does the contract say as far as billing terms?
I
Because
don't
it,
have,
my,
that
and
would
the
be a
reason I ask is if a vendor is so haphazard about invoicing, how do we go back and look at October of 21 and verify that what they're billing for is correct?
we pulled invoices. I went back and looked to
They
verify
did,
that
they did send the
they,
invoice.
I looked through the invoices to verify that they did not bill us for those items. We receive other invoices, but that particular time, those particular items on that invoices were not covered on any of the other invoices during that time period.
Okay.
So the invoices have the time the work was performed
We
or
got billed for like the actual materials. If it had to do with, they had to purchase additional phones, computers, or whatever it was during that time, we were billed for equipment, but not for the labor.
they do provide a great service for us and always here anytime we call them. However, we have had a conversation that we can't continue this.
Yeah, I don't,
Yeah,
I would not expect to ever see that again.
Right.
If the contract doesn't have a term when they have to bill for, I would assume that's pretty standard.
we'll take a look at that as
Yeah,
well.
We need to take a look at that. And then, because we're having a budget amendment today that we've been looking
Mhm.
closely
Well,
at.
it also raises questions when you see that, what happened, you know?
Why did we go over our budget line item that this should be billed
That's
to? And then
correct.
we say, well, they billed us for work from 21.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And that does hurt our budget. Anytime I do see that, I do question it. I do say, hey, wait a minute, why, this is a lot of money. It doesn't fit in our budget because it's for a previous year. But like I said, I did go back through and double check just to make sure that we were not billed for those items.
And then the last question I had was, it's a draft on the last sheet, Texas Workforce Commission.
Mhm.
I don't recall seeing one like that before. Where will that be billed against our labor?
That would go against our taxes on our line item, and and unfortunately, that's hard to budget for because we do not pay Texas Workforce Commission dues like every quarter, like most companies do because of what we are. And so we only have to pay that when somebody is let go or quits and files unemployment, and then they get their unemployment. Then the TWC bills us back. So that we cannot budget for because we don't know during the year. We can't say at the beginning of the year, we're going to get rid of this person, and we know we need to add
And
that
this
much.
is, I think everyone will agree, I'm focusing on these items. So
Right.
I've not noticed that before,
Mhm.
but I want to understand where it would be billed because we've got an adjustment. I believe it's the overtime under a future item on this agenda.
Right now, yeah.
Does
it
that
goes-
get billed to the overtime or? does
No,
it
it's
labor?
just to the taxes, the payroll taxes of what
And then where-
the line item for payroll taxes.
So that comes out of a specific line item.
It's in the
Right.
sevens.
Okay. All right.
I think in the past, some of it, it may have been written in a check, but now they're allowing us to actually do a draft. And just for getting it there on time to make sure we don't get any penalties, it's easier just to do a draft
Sure.
with them.
Okay.
Any other questions on item D5? I'll entertain a motion to approve items D2 and 5. So moved. Seconded? Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Items D2 and 5 are approved. We're going to make a slight agenda change. We're going to move item L up into the next spot. Here presentation from NewGen Strategies and Solutions regarding a 5-year rate analysis for water and wastewater and take action as necessary. Mr. Allen, am I turning this over to you?
Yes, sir. Thank you. We have our rate consultant, Chris Ekrut, NewGen Strategies on virtually, going to join us virtually. We have a presentation that you have in your board packet that we're going to go over to discuss the rate analysis. Chris, are you with us?
Yes, sir. Good morning. Can you hear me okay?
Hello, Chris, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I see he's logged on, but
You can't hear me. Can you hear me?
I'm a
I'm-
guest,
I
Chris,
think
and I
he's
can
trying
hear
to
you.
connect.
Okay.
But I don't know if the room can hear you. I don't know
Yeah.
if that's.
Um. I'm. Good morning. Hello. Check test.
Good morning, Chris. I guess can you hear us, Chris? We
I-
cannot hear you.
I can hear. I can hear you. Check test. Check test.
As I said before, Chris, I can hear you, but I'm on Teams though. I'm
Okay.
virtual right now.
All right.
For
thank you,
some reason,
Marcus.
I think their speakers are not connected. Somehow they
Yeah,
need a.
Mr. President, do you want to go to another item and I'll have,
On to item E.
we'll contact him and see what difficulties we're having and come back to this.
All right, let us know when you're back up and running and we'll add that back in. Let's go back to item E, Green Valley SUD General Manager, staff, engineers, and board committee chairs. There will be no discussion of these items unless a board member so requests it as part of the order of business. Review the following memos, reports, and updates and take action as necessary. Item 1I, business, hear the general manager updates. Mr. Allen, would you like to take these?
Yes, sir, I would. E1, the fleet. I think Mr. Frias has really been requesting an update on the fleet vehicles and equipment report. Let me get to that right quick. And what you have in your board packet, and y'all have seen this before, is our spreadsheet on our fleet, on our vehicles, both equipment, trailers, and all the trucks and other vehicles that we have. And what you have is on the spreadsheet. You'll see some different colored coded line items there. You'll see the first coloration there, unit number 8. It's one of the ones that we are replacing. As you'll see that another number 8 there right behind it, below it with a star next to it. That's the replacement vehicle that we purchased. The last board meeting, y'all approved the purchase of 2 vehicles. We were able to secure 2 vehicles within the amount allowed. And so we have 2 replacements there, both number 8, unit 8, new unit 14. So we have a new unit 8 and unit 14 also listed there. And they're not in service just yet, but they should be in the next week or 10 days up and on the road and running. The safety equipment, lights and stuff are being installed on them as we speak. The next item we have, and we'll talk about that in a little more detail in just a little while, in unit number 18. One of the things Mr. Frias asked is, was there anything else that we may replace this year? Of course, you never know when you may have to do that. I'm not sure if we'll replace unit 18 this year, but it's something that the repair on that vehicle would cost more than probably the vehicle is worth. And so we have it on our agenda today to declare it as surplus so we can get rid of that vehicle. Whether we replace that this fiscal year, I can't say that. I would bring that back to y'all at another future meeting with quotes and what we'd want to replace it with.
But that will go into this year's budget.
Possibly. If we decide to if we have the need to replace that, what I want to do is go ahead and clean up the fleet, get rid of anything that we are not using, not on the road, so it's just not sitting out there in the yard to get it off the yard. And this is one that's already been parked. It's been parked for a while. It has some
That was
extensive,
gonna be my question. How long has it been out of service?
3 weeks. The front end needs complete overhaul on the front end, and the cost of that's pretty expensive. We've had issues with it for over a year now and finally got to the degree different shops could not find the problem. We wasted enough time on it and enough money on it. We need to get rid of it, and I'll consider replacement. However, before I do that, as you know, I'll bring it back to the board. Should we decide we have to get that replaced, and not, it'll come on a list for next fiscal year.
That would be an item in the capital budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thought so, just verifying.
Do we recover the lights and the bars and the other stuff from?
Anytime we get rid of a vehicle, we pretty much just strip them. Now, this particular vehicle doesn't have light bars and a bunch of heavy equipment on it.
It says it does. Is that labeled incorrectly?
Service bed was.
Yes, things like the service bed will take off. Now, some service beds, because how they're built on the vehicle, it's hard to adapt to a new chassis. Where we can do that, we have done that in the past, and that's that's the rule of thumb here. We've done 3 of those in the last 2 years where we repurpose it in another vehicle, but this one we may not do that. I'll have to check out the boxes on it and see what kind of condition they're in. Anytime we can save money on service bodies and trucks and stuff, we do that.
I have a question. So when it comes to, fleet management and sort of forecasting, we have software that's gonna help us with that, right?
We have our new system with our billing and other things that we hope to get up and running this year, Pam, this calendar year.
Does it
Not
look at,
fiscal
does it
year,
look
but
at
calendar.
mileage? Does it look at how often the thing's breaking down? How do we, I'm just trying to figure out in my own head how we.
Well, this spreadsheet
forecast.
helps. us. We track oil changes, power purchases and all those things. Pam and Melissa in the operations side track those vehicles. We look at the mileage, but we also look at the use of that truck and also the condition as it ages. Who's driving it? How are they driving it? What are its needs are? And we also look at, we've used this style of vehicle now, we're having these kind of troubles. What would be better? What would maybe give us more life in a vehicle? And its use. So we look at all of those things. Now, I don't have software that tracks that at this point in time. It's just something we've done in-house over the years.
Just to let you know, our new system has a fleet asset management system in it. So anytime they go get an oil change, they change a spark plug, we create what's called a work order in the system. And if it's coded to any type of fleet transportation code, it automatically requires you to update it on the fleet asset side. And then from there, we can print all kinds of reports based on usage, mileage, what type of repairs we've done, age of the vehicle, oil changes. We should be able to get a nice report that'll be more concise than a huge spreadsheet.
Thank you.
But it'll take a little time for us to get it totally up to par for about a year.
Thank you.
And Pam, you might be the one I'm directing some questions to, so I'd try not to get your steps in too much. So I'm on the divisions, I'm just looking at this for the first time. I've seen this complete, document. I see meters, wastewater, production, district, exec, I already said production.
And
We've got a ton of different categories.
yeah, and that's one thing else we have to clean up. However, I may use that truck as a service truck today or tonight. But if I have another purpose that needs to be done, I don't have something available, that truck may do several different things. That vehicle may, even though it's for the distribution or maintenance of the water plants or sewer plant even. If there's a line crew out there needing assistance, that truck or vehicle is going to go over there. So many of those trucks, as some employees do, wear many hats. They do different jobs. So it's hard to label just one, that vehicle is just going to do this. It's going to do a variety of things. But yes, we need to clean that up, maybe be more specific about it. Or maybe
I
have a
would
different
look-
category,
I
how
would
we
look for-
categorize them.
Yeah, I would look for water, wastewater, and executive.
Yeah,
And if you need to subcategorize the water to whatever else we have, that's possible. But for what I'm looking at, why that's important to me is when we have our capital budget and we have capital purchases tied to water that are to be paid for with water revenues and capital purchases tied to wastewater that I want to be paid for with water and I want to be paid for with wastewater. Shan's over there shaking his head.
well,
I want it that way. We have multiple revenue sources. We have multiple expenditure streams. They should match each other. So that's why I asked that question is how do we get there? This is a work in progress, I understand, but that's a suggestion.
and Pam, I may let you, as a district, the district has revenues, whether it be water or wastewater, they're combined to play. Now, kayak fees, contribution aid of construction can be used for different things. Now, impact fees are restricted for only certain things. But we look at our revenues and we don't separate them as far, this is only sewer, this is only water. They're revenues to the district, and that's how we combine them and use that. We've talked to our auditors about that. We've talked to CPA out of Universal City about that. He says you don't have to, you're not required to separate those funds. It's all the general funds to Green Valley.
Right. And I think we should though.
Now, we can book it as far as we can track it, wastewater or sewer, but the funds, revenues of the district are used on either department. Does that make sense?
I understand. And that's been explained to me that way before. When we did the rate analysis, which is a different item, the board was very clear. Let's have two separate rate analysis to track these things independently. So that's another line item. I'm not demanding that we change something instantaneously. I'm just saying that's what I need. That's what I'm looking to see in the future. One other update I would like on this, Pam, is a category of the vehicle, whether it's an on-call vehicle that a different person might take home each night.
I do not believe we separate our vehicles out by that. The crews pretty much have their trucks, and if they're on call, they take that vehicle. There's not a specific on-call truck that's just used for on-call.
So it
That
would be
they're assigned
depending
trucks.
on which specific staff member is
Correct.
on call this week or however we
Right,
separate
they
it out.
take whatever their unit that
And-
they drive during the week. Is that, I mean, that is correct, Gabe? I want to make sure I'm not.
And that's fine. That's fine. I
Mm-hmm.
would look for it to be, a department / on-call vehicle.
Right, and we've also discussed, because of our size, as we grow bigger, we'll eventually get to where, like you said, we can separate out water and wastewater, but we have people that do kind of travel back and forth. And so, as far as the divisions, we have discussed, having a D&C, division, which would actually encompass water and wastewater, just a distribution and collections, which would be a category in itself, since we do have some people that do have multiple license, so they can be utilized in different
The only issue with
locations.
that I could foresee is we have to make sure that tools, saws, for example.
No, that's correct.
don't
That's
have
something, yes,
cross-contamination.
I'm very big on that.
Yeah.
Yes, making sure it's
And
it's
Depending on what
clean.
that job is, yeah, that
And
department.
so the purpose of the vehicle,
Mhm.
department / on-call. And I also want to see which ones are dedicated take-home vehicles, and who they're assigned to
Okay.
on this listing.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Any other questions, comments? All right, let's move on to item 2, website platform
Oh, I'm
update.
sorry, Mr. Cooper. I do have one on the back page. I apologize. We have listed a 2023 Case Farmall. Is that an entire tractor or what is that?
Yes, it's a case tractor. This
And
is-
it's a 23.
Yes, we purchased it last fiscal year, I believe, Pam. Tractor and batwing that we do our shredding, of course, of all of our properties, but also our easements, both water and wastewater easements throughout our
We
system.
purchased a 23 in fiscal year 22.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It was approved by the board.
Right. I saw 23. I assumed it was purchased in 23. And I didn't remember doing that. So if it was purchased under last fiscal year, I'm not
It
aware.
may have been purchased in the fiscal year 2022, however, it was a 23-year model.
Because we
Correct.
did approve the 2023 brush grapple that goes with it.
That came with-
under
yes,
this
sir.
year.
Yes.
So I thought it was all a package deal because I knew we did the brush grapple, but I was.
We bought it all at one time, and then I believe it was this fiscal year in January, we approved a new trailer to be able to haul that tractor. And, but like I said, at the time we purchased that dealership had the 2023 year model Farmall or tractor case. And so even though it was purchased in 2022, just like some
Right.
vehicles, you can get a 23-year model in 22. So it's same difference.
And just to clarify, you said we purchased them all at the same time. I'm understanding we made 2 purchases, the tractor in last budget year and then the grapple bucket more recently. Because we had a budget amendment this year for the capital.
I don't remember the grapple
I
this
just- I
year.
just wanna make sure-
However,
Yeah, I just want to make sure we didn't buy. an
we didn't
entire
buy
tractor.
anything y'all didn't know about. So whatever fiscal
Okay,
year it
thanks,
was.
Steve.
That's right.
I
Thank you,
do-
Mr. Sherman. Ms. Ashland.
Y'all. Just to give a quick update on the website, we will not be moving forward with Wix. I've discussed this with Mr. Hendricks. We are instead going to move forward with the Finance Committee, looking at different options and really narrowing it down, and then bringing it back to the board for a final decision on what website platform we will choose. This will happen over the course of a year, so we'll have plenty of time to prepare as opposed to the 1-month run that we did last time. So we're hoping to get a really good plan finalized for y'all.
Can you state why we can't use Wix?
Yes, we won't be able to use Wix because they took out section 508 compliance on our previous contract, which means that we would be in violation of just general regulations and rules we need to have as a government entity. We want to make sure that all our constituents can access the website information and pay bills. That's why that section ADA is really important to us here. So that'll be why we weren't moving forward.
Thank you.
Can you briefly speak to which line item how much money we're going to save this year and which line item it would come out of?
Because we have to stay.
We're not.
Still maintaining.
We're not going
They're
forward,
just-
so there's no line item.
We don't know how much we're gonna spend yet.
And
But then
obviously, we
the
won't
Wix-
know what the new cost is gonna be
Yeah.
until we decide on that.
But we
That
had
mi-
an amount budgeted for the Wix under this fiscal year, correct?
We were using the money line set aside in the public relations.
Yeah, it was the original money set aside, I believe, in either January or February. I'm sorry, you can correct me if I'm wrong,
Sure.
but that would have been the money allocated if in my new position I needed extra help from any firm to get started with everything. Me and Pat mutually decided that we would not be moving forward with that company and that I was secure in my role and being able to complete all tasks as assigned.
So that's 600,307 public relations.
That's correct.
Are you confident in the functionality of the existing system?
As it stands, we will make it work as good as we can. We've already been contacting the civics team to make sure that it's more accessible to the public. I've heard comments about just the loading time for the agendas and board meetings, and unfortunately, that is a set part of civics that they will not be able to change, though we have requested it, no matter how much the cost, and they have said they can't. There is no reversal on that, so we will be moving forward with the site, but hopefully in the next year, me and the finance committee, Mr. Hendricks, will all work together to make sure that we have a functioning website and that agendas, board meeting information can be more accessible than ever.
Awesome. Thank you. I know that's not an easy project, so. All right, any other questions for Ashlyn? All right, thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Appreciate
you so
your help.
much.
Board binders, GVSUD policies and procedures. Wow, more paperwork. Who's, Miss Sam?
In front of you, you'll see the red binders. These are all of the policies and so forth. So your teal binders that you've had in the past are obsolete. And if you can, the next meeting, bring those in so we can recycle those binders for a different project. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. I also have in your board package the memo, trying to give you a little bit clear outline of the policies and plans that we have in place currently. And it was requested for a priority number to be assigned. You'll see that on the right-hand side of that column. The current policies that we have that are under review and editing is the personnel policy and employment manual. And then the other is the operating policy. We are trying to get to all of these policies and plans as quickly as possible. We are integrating this in with our daily duties and that we are assigned. So just bear with me, but if you'd like to see or know what's going on and what plan or what part we are in, then I also provided you a flow chart to kind of give you a little bit more of a play-by-play for you, if you will. Of the process that the review process goes through. Of course, it can go back and forth in between the legal review and then staff editing multiple times, so it's not a one time. And then when it gets to the final revisions where we think we have a really great product going forward, then we'll send it to outside legal to review to make sure that we're in compliance with all legal statutes and everything before we bring it to the board for review. So that will be vetted before we bring that to you. Also, just as a routing sheet, just want to, again, let you know more of our process. We do have a routing sheet that we use so we can track who has the policy, where they are in the stage of that policy and so forth. Just helps us keep our eyes on it. And we have nice bright orange folders so they're easily visible. So these are the processes that we have in place for our review of policies and procedures. Are there any questions for me?
No questions. I have two comments.
Okay.
When we do bring these back for board review and approval, if you'll include the existing current policy and the new so that I can compare and make sure everything that's important to me in the existing version is captured in the proposed. And then I dug out my old binder and my bylaws, I'm sorry, my audit, because I was looking on the website and I can't find a lot of these current policies that are active right now.
Okay.
do we have them? And maybe this is a question for Ashlyn. Are they on the website or are they not on the website?
I'm not sure if they're all on the website, but I can work with Ashlyn to make sure that they're up there.
Yeah, can you make sure that all of the
Absolutely.
existing
As they're
policies?
approved.
No, we have current policies that are in place right now.
Right. No,
I think
understand.
those should be available.
Make sure that they're valid, legal to be posted.
The ones that are in your binder are the ones that are valid
this
and
new
legal
binder?
to post.
Yes.
And then
Thank you.
any of these policies that are included in here, there's no reason we can't put those on the website.
Yes, sir. That's what I'm saying, that I will work with
Okay.
Ashlyn to get those current policies that have been approved to post up to the
Because
website.
I thought I was just navigating the internet incorrectly and I'm convinced they're not there. Some of them are not there, so.
Well, please, feel free to put any comments to me. If you have any questions about what's inside your binder, or if you're not seeing something on the website, Ashlyn and I work together very intimately on making sure things are posted. And she's a whiz at it. So thank you for your time.
Thank you for all your hard work. on
Mr.
this.
President, I have a
Thank you.
comment, if I could, please, on the water conservation drought contingency plan, part of our approval process, review and approval process is, before we bring it to y'all for final blessing, is to have a public meeting on that policy. And Philip is working with Ashland to get a public meeting held July 6th at 5:30 here for public comment on that conservation plan. That's something we have to do to get it approved, brought back to y'all for approval with the revisions coming out of any of that, if there are any. We'd like to get that approved by December so we can get it to TCEQ in January.
Will there be public notice sent out for that?
Yes,
so we
we'll
can-
post it and we'll put it on the website and we'll get some notices out to the folks.
Thank you.
And you say 5:30 PM here?
Yes, sir. July 6th, 5:30, is that correct, folks? Yes,
5:30 or?
5:30 here. It's 6 o'clock, July 6th.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? Item 4, Mr. Cantu, Guadalupe County Utility Provider Roundtable Meeting.
Good morning. As you know, and you should know, we're in the middle of a hotbed of development in this entire state of Texas. Us along with GVEC, GBRA, AT&T, Spectrum, CenterPoint, Centric, Crystal Clear Sud, Springs Hill Sud, along with City of Cibolo and City of New Braunfels and the county, Guadalupe County. We're being challenged to the nth degree with this massive development. We've got, just with Green Valley, over 4,000 units in one phase or another of design, construction, or completion. That's about 100 projects. Okay, that's what we're dealing with right now. And to help that, us as a group, the entities I mentioned have formed what we're calling a utility roundtable for the region of Guadalupe County. Okay, and we're having quarterly meetings. The first one was in February. We had a second meeting this past June. The first one in February was at the GVEC facility off of I-10 back here. The second one was at the GBR facility in Seguin, and the third one will be here in September. We haven't locked in a date yet, but we'll be having it here at our new training facility. And thanks to UEG, I believe they'll be sponsoring the lunch for that one, so we're pretty happy about that. So it's more of a luncheon. In front of you, you should see the agenda from the last meeting. Okay, in your packet. And obviously lunch doesn't sit on there, but that's not what we're here to talk about. We kind of eat and talk about all these things. Talk about, the active areas of development. The road widening projects associated with that. We talk about Guadalupe County's thoroughfare plan, county right-of-way dedication easements, a lot of easement discussions, utility conflict discussions. We even talk about things like supply chain issues. And just try to get coordinated with each other on trying to cram all these utilities in these developments and dealing with Text dot. We're having to constantly contend with Text dot right-of-way dedications, which makes it a challenge because they overtake our easement and other people's easements. And so we're trying to cram all our utilities into usually an area thoroughfare. And that coordination can get tricky. And so this quarterly meeting just provides an opportunity for us to get together, and we'll actually even talk about specific issues regarding conflicts in certain projects that we can kind of lessons learned kind of thing, how we can learn from each other, because some of these developers get kind of savvy on us and learn how to pull the wool over one's eyes to get what they want here. And you know, it keeps us busy, that's for sure. And so this roundtable has provided a good platform for working together for one and getting to know each other and resolve all these conflicts. Do you have any questions?
Just a comment. Have you gotten a commitment from Text dot to attend these meetings, at least have a seat at the table and listen?
No, we have not, to answer your question. And
I suspected.
what we do have, though, is a seat at the table with the city of Cibolo that we're attending regularly, talking about capital projects and similar issues.
And this is at this meeting?
I'm sorry?
This is at this meeting that the cities are attending?
The cities are not attending this meeting yet.
So what, and I was gonna wait until you're done speaking, but what entities attended this meeting on the 6th?
The intention of this meeting is the very subject of the title, utility roundtable. That's to coordinate the local utilities with each other.
Yes, sir. I'm sorry. I must have misspoken. What entities attended, not intention?
GVEC, GBRA, AT&T, Spectrum, CenterPoint, Centric with a C, Crystal Clear SUD, and Springs Hill SUD.
As we work with developments, those are all the entities that we work with, trying to find locations where our utilities are going to go. It's always a struggle because the right of ways, the amount of areas available for the utilities of Forest Service, you know, and not a lot of the cities have joined or have, but they're not excluded either. And they're certainly welcome to come. And Gabe is doing a good job reaching out to those folks, and their schedules are so busy. They're tough. You know, New Braunfels and Cibolo both we work hand in hand with, and as well as those other entities he just mentioned. So this is something we've been wanting to get together for a long time, and I think the group that Gabe is working with, we're adamant that we are not going to drop the ball on it. We're going to continue these meetings because those discussions are very valid, especially when we have plat recordation or approvals, plan review, or where are the other utilities while we're doing our plans? Well, we're going to go right here. Then later on, we find out, well, that's a conflict. Well, why didn't we know that? And how can we head that off? And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but it takes a while to get everybody together, humming at the same pace, you know, to get all this reviewed and try to be
And with this
coordinated.
rapid growth, we're all implementing new policy, like Samantha provided y'all. None of that policy, I don't think any of the construction standards are in there that we do have available on the website, by the way. Design and construction standards for water and wastewater. But everybody's scrambling to develop these standards and policies. So we have some kind of contractual control on construction and design standards. Otherwise, it's kind of it's been, I'll be honest, a couple years ago when I came to Green Valley, it's kind of the Wild Wild West out here in Guadalupe County because it is developing like a madhouse, and we're all scrambling to develop some control.
You know, one of the goals that Gabe and I have with this is we're doing a lot of work in our mapping system, our GIS system. And our goal in a perfect world is that we share that with those other entities at the same time they share theirs with us. And so we can see the layer of utilities in the area and know where each one of them is. There's some stuff in the ground out there that we don't want any part of. We don't want to be anywhere around of the fibers, and there's not enough money in Guadalupe County to pay for a fiber line. So that's very important. Our goal is to be able to share all that information, but you have to start with the grassroots effort with these entities and utilities and to make that happen. So that's our goal. And these are very important meetings. I'm glad.
I'm glad to see this, that we're part of this as well. I know pretty soon I'm gonna put on my John Frias mask, and I know he's been up here, wanting us to speak to our counterparts. I didn't hear that the county specifically was in
Guadalupe
attendance.
County was there. I'm sorry.
Guadalupe County
That
is
was
there?
My little,
Okay.
but yes, they were absolutely there.
Okay, I know he's wanted us to interact with the county. I know he's wanted us to interact with the city of Cibolo and Schertz. I'm trying to remember, did he name any other entities specifically? Even if it's just getting to know people and having a point of contact when we need something, that's
That's half
a
the battle.
good, you're correct. It's half the battle. So, this is headlined by GBRA,
This is a joint,
a joint,
a
okay.
joint effort.
So if it's a joint effort, I would ask that we invite all of our customer cities that go to this, figure out who our point of contact is that will be doing that. I don't know if that's a task for you or a task for Pat to make sure it's done, but get in touch with all of our customer cities.
Right.
Because this sounds like a good thing that could be expanded upon. They may not know about it. So, let's make sure all of our customer cities are aware of the next one. And if they don't show up, they don't show up, but at least notify them so that we have an opportunity to say hello and interact.
Gabe's been trying to grow this ever since he got involved with it. So that is
Oh,
a
I'm happy to
good
see this.
comment.
This is a good list of people that we don't want to run into their infrastructure and they don't want to run into ours.
This is one of our better meetings that we've got coordinated on a regular basis.
And then my last comment. So we're going to have the next meeting here.
Absolutely.
I know it's Mr. Frias's committee. Isn't that correct, Mr. King? You and
Public service?
Public Service
Yeah.
Committee. We're working on or it's on our list of tasks, a policy for use of the new facility.
Okay.
So what are y'all planning under item 10 for here and how do y'all,
What do we plan
Receive
for
it.
what to
for
attend?
item 10, where the next meeting will be held here?
What do we plan? What do you mean? What do we plan? What?
Where do y'all plan to have the meeting?
Here
Here.
in
this-
September,
not
not in
this
this room,
room.
in our training room.
Okay.
Training room out in the
So
work-
then the next question I have is how do we control access for the people coming?
It's gonna be a good first test for us. We're gonna learn as we go. We have an idea of what we want to do already. It's gonna have to be controlled, you're right. It is on,
Even right now, everyone in this room is told where they can and can't go
right.
with, signs all over. So
We're
that's
gonna
something
have to,
that a committee was,
it's gonna be very hands-on, paying attention where people are parking when they arrive and we're gonna have to figure it out as
It'll
we
be a
go.
coordinated effort. Yeah. And we understand that.
and this is Mr. Frias's committee, but Mr. King, do you think, I'm sure we could have a meeting before this next meeting happens and maybe get a plan together and just bounce it off of us since it's on Samantha's list of tasks that we are working on, this sort of thing. So let us take a peek at it and make sure, this is John's committee and he's not here. I
Yeah,
don't
I'll-
speak for him, but I think.
I want to put out a parking schematic to the group. We have an email group, so once we figure that out, at least the general layout, I'll include that into the invitation when it'll be about August when we pump something out
Yeah,
to the
there's plenty
group.
of time to get that done.
Thank you, Mr. Cantu, because I look forward to the committee supporting them in their operation.
Oh, yeah.
Just thank you.
We want to figure out how we can use that room successfully back
Effectively.
there.
Yeah.
Just
And-
one final
And I
comment.
also, one other quick comment, I want to add on to what Mr. Sherman said. Sitting at the table is so vitally necessary to all of the organizations that impact us and that we impact, from CRW to A to ARWA to GBRA, all of these different entities. So Pat, the fact that you're having people there and having representation from GBSUD, I carries an immense amount of impact for our community and frankly, for our ability to move forward. So I commend everybody in that process.
And just one final comment, if I may, the fact that you got AT&T to the table,
I
because
was very
they're,
surprised to see them.
they're usually the last one to
They might
finish,
should be out in the field working,
to get their projects. They're kind of like working with Southern Pacific.
Oh,
Their
yeah.
schedule, their plans, will let you know. So the fact you got them in the room is significant.
The only link we're kind of missing in this whole coordination effort of building relationships and working together is I mean, we're doing it, but not in a formal way with meetings, is the city of New Braunfels. We need to get something like that going, like we got going with Cibolo. We got the Guadalupe County group, and now we need to get something going with New Braunfels. As you know, that's a
Yeah, I think
huge
you,
hotbed over
you and Philip met with Cibolo just this last Tuesday, didn't you?
in Cibolo, that's correct.
Right.
Oh, good. That's a good thing.
Great. Thank you, sir. Appreciate the update.
Well-
Thank you for your work on that. David, can we go back to item L? Do we have our consultant here or are we holding off on that?
This is Chris. I'm online. Can anybody online hear me?
I can hear you, Chris.
Okay.
Morning, Chris. Megan, are y'all here with us?
We are here. We can hear you. Marcus,
Great.
can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay. Cody, can you hear us by chance, sir?
Cody is not here,
I
but we
can-
can hear you.
Okay.
Oh, Cody's here is with us. Sorry. Yes, she is
Okay.
here.
So we are back online and you can hear us now.
Yes. Thank you.
Okay.
Please.
Fantastic. All right. Perfect. And you can see the presentation that I'm sharing on my screen.
And I didn't introduce Chris. Chris Ekrut with New Gen Strategies is the one person talking to us right now. And he'll be presenting what you see on the screen and you should have in your board packet as far as the rate analysis that we just performed. And Chris,
All
I'm going
right.
to let you take it from there.
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Pat. Again, Chris Eckert with New Gen Strategies and Solutions. Pleasure to be with you today. Appreciate you accommodating me in a virtual environment. And my apologies for the IT issues. Hopefully this will go smoothly as we move forward here. I did hear the conversation earlier, and as we get started, I do want to answer the question that has already been asked. As we go through this presentation today, this is a summary level presentation. There's a lot of information within this PowerPoint, and to be cognizant of your time, to be cognizant of the public's time, we tried to keep this at a fairly high level. I understand that the board is wanting to see water and wastewater specific numbers. We have those numbers. We can certainly go through those with you. I would suggest we do that with a smaller group that's interested in walking through that. But we do have an Excel model we can walk you through, show you where all the numbers are coming from. But I do also want to address this separation between water and wastewater. While we do look at it that way, we also do look at it on a combined basis for two reasons. First and foremost, when you go to the debt markets, when you go and issue bonds, bond holders, bond rating agencies are looking at you on a combined basis. They're looking at your combined financial performance in terms of giving you a rating, in terms of determining your interest rate. So it is important that we look on a combined basis, even if we do break it apart. At the same time, we have to also be cognizant of customer affordability, both on a standalone water and wastewater basis, as well as on a combined basis. We are still a small wastewater utility in the grand scheme of things. We are still moving towards self-sufficiency on the wastewater side. That is not uncommon. That is actually a very common thing that you see both here in the state of Texas as well as nationally. Customers understand paying for water. They get a commodity from water. They don't always understand paying for wastewater because once water goes down the drain, down the toilet, it's out of sight, out of mind. And when you actually come in and start looking at water and wastewater, in many cases, and in the case of Green Valley, the cost to treat a unit of wastewater is more expensive than the cost of water because we have less billing units. We have less customers. We have less volumes. And so it is important to be cognizant not just of the individual water and wastewater utilities separated, but also as a whole. But again, I'm happy to spend time with the board, walk you through all that information, but just wanted to kind of give you that introduction up front. This presentation is presented on a combined basis. We don't have individual water and wastewater numbers in this presentation, but we are happy to talk you through that at a later time when we can arrange that. So with that, as we move forward, again, what are we looking at today? What are we presenting? So we have done several different analyses in the past. What you're being presented today is an update to the last rate plan. That last rate plan was presented to the board in the winter of 2022. There was a rate adjustment that was implemented. I had that as I guess it was May 2022 was the last rate adjustment that I had. That date may be slightly off. But no rate action has been taken since that time. And so what we're doing today is we're presenting the updated rate plan as we go back in comparison to what the board saw in 2022. So we're providing an update to that 5-year rate plan. As has already been mentioned in this meeting, growth is a significant factor for the district. And so obviously growth is a key assumption that we are looking at. You can see water growth, we're basically on track. We've provided the 22 water projection as compared with what we're using in our projection right now. We're a little bit higher in our water growth projection right now. However, wastewater is different. We have not seen the growth come on the wastewater side yet. We had a very aggressive growth anticipated originally in the 2022 study. You can see that's a little bit delayed right now. We don't have that coming in 23. You can see we do have those added connections coming in 2024. This is something that we need to monitor and keep track of to see when those connections are actually going to come online and actually hit the system. Was there a question there? Okay, I apologize.
Chris, this is Pat. There's a comment I want to make regarding that anticipated wastewater growth is with the completion of our sewer line, the 8 miles of sewer line that we constructed, been in construction for the last year and a half. We're starting to see an uptick on that wastewater growth, and we are connected. I think by the mid-July, all approvals, all completion of that sewer line. So we have subdivisions waiting for that, and the development's starting to go back, not maybe the same pace as they were on the sewer side, but we're starting to see an uptick on that.
Again, going forward and looking at combined performance, both of the water and wastewater utility, putting everything together, looking at combined performance under current rates. What these charts assume is that you're going to go ahead and move forward with your capital plan. You're going to do everything you need to do, but we're comparing that expense level with what is anticipated to be generated under your current rates. We recognize if rates don't go up, then we can't do some of these things. But this is how we go through this process of testing your revenue stream and determining when rate increases may be needed. You see 3 different charts on the screen right now, and I'm going to start towards the bottom, revenues versus expenses. Ultimately, our water and wastewater utility is a business. Revenues must match or exceed expenses, and that's what you see in that chart there at the bottom. The bars, the vertical bars, that is our expenses, our projected expenses. The line, that is our anticipated revenues under current rates if we did nothing. Because the line is below the bar, that tells us that our projected revenues are insufficient to support our projected expenses going forward. Going to the upper left-hand corner, that chart there, you see debt service coverage. So we look at 2 different metrics when we are testing your revenue performance. One is debt service coverage. The other is we look at reserves. Debt service coverage is your ability to pay your debt, to pay your obligations. The minimum amount we want to see on debt service coverage is 1 times. What that means is when we take our revenues less our O&M expenses, what is left over is equal to our then due principal and interest payment. However, because the district uses revenue bonds and has different funding sources, we actually look here at a 1.25 times debt service coverage. That ensures that we have a slight margin over and above our debt payment to account for variances in our revenue stream that may occur due to conservation, may be due to weather. We want a little bit of a cushion there to make sure that we can pay our debt requirements. Right now, we are below, under current rates, we're projected to be below that 1.25 times coverage requirement. It is important that we maintain that coverage requirement because that is what bondholders look at. That is what debt rating agencies look at. When you go to issue debt, they are looking at that performance to make sure that you can pay back the obligations. In the upper right-hand corner, what you see there is the fund balance reserve. Right now, we have a reserve. We're estimating a reserve here in 2023 of 96 days on hand. Our target there is 120 days. So we're a little bit below where we ideally want to be on our reserve requirement. If we did not adjust rates, clearly we would have to draw down on that reserve requirement. So again, this is what is leading us to say we really do need to look at some rate increases going forward based on our expense assumptions, based on our capital plan assumptions as we move forward in future years. So last time I was with the board.
Sir,
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry. I do have a question that I want to go back one slide, please. This is Nick Sherman. I apologize. So in the top left, the debt service coverage table. So for 2023, we're actually going negative. Am I reading that correctly?
That is our projection right now. Yes, sir. Ultimately, what that means is you're going to have to draw out of reserves to make that debt payment. You have the reserves to do it, but what we're looking at here is rate performance.
And I was the one that asked staff to have you send over the last rate study from 22, and I've got it here.
Yes, sir.
And in that last rate study, we had projected a rate increase for this fiscal year that we did not do.
Correct.
Why did we not have this brought as a action item for the board if we're actually negative in debt service for 23?
So again, I can't speak to to why the timing worked out the way it did. We've been working with your staff to get this analysis updated. So again, I can't speak to the timing on that.
Okay, thank you.
So again, last time I was with the board here in 22, you see at the very top, this is just looking at water rates, the water rate projection. And as was indicated, we did have a rate increase programmed in fiscal year 2023. We have not taken action in fiscal year 2023. So what we're looking at here is potential action in 2024. So that top line, the rate increase is estimated there, 5.5% in 23, same thing in 2024. We anticipated being able to drop that down a little bit there in 2025. What we're showing you today is two potential options for rate adjustment going forward. Again, no rate action in 2023, but effective in 2024. Option one would be to stick with that 5.5%, stay on plan with where we were estimated to be in 2022. If we do that, however, and our capital plan, if we execute on our capital plan as anticipated, you can see that will increase some of those future required increases to 8% for a few years before we fall back to 3%. As an alternative option, if we didn't want to go with 5.5% in 2024, we could go a little higher. We could go around 7.5% there in 24, keep that 7.5% in place until we get to the 3% in 2028. Both of these options basically get us to the same place. One just takes a little higher action in 2024 as opposed to the other. So again, both are getting us to the same place. It's just a matter of customer impacts and how customers experience these increases. On the
So I'm going to ask
wastewater
another question. This is
Yes, sir.
Nick Sherman again. Back one slide, please. Thank you. So for your other clients, what are you seeing generally with inflation and capital growth in growing areas? What are you seeing for year over year over year over year proposed rate increases?
So for growth communities, obviously we are higher. What we do see as an industry average right now, and there's actually an index out there that is tracked by the St. Louis Fed that looks at water, sewer, trash increases year over time. That index right now is running average annual increases of about 4.5 to 5%. That's what we're seeing industry wide across the nation. Those communities that are growing, that we're seeing higher capital needs, we're obviously higher than that. It varies based on community. It varies based on where they are in their timing. I have some communities that are looking at double-digit rate increases just to keep up with their capital plan as well as inflation. But really, the base increase we're seeing in the industry right now, on average, is running about 4.5% to 5%.
Thank you.
On the wastewater side, we are at this time recommending that we continue to stick with the plan, keeping that 3% change in place. Why is that? Why are we only doing 3% on the wastewater side? I'll remind you that back in, I believe it was 2020, 2021, we had a significant sewer rate increase. We went up 25% on our sewer rates because we were trying to bring sewer up to a reasonable level based on our cost. So there's already been a significant sewer increase that we have gone through, and we are continuing to track with that. Now, that being said, do we need more of a sewer rate increase? Yes, eventually we do. As I said before, when we break it apart, sewer is not 100% recovering its cost, but you're also not in an operational position right now for sewer to fully recover its cost because we don't have the number of customers, the volumes that we need on the sewer side. Because again, we have to be cognizant of affordability in service to customers. There will be a time in the future when greater sewer increases are needed. Once the sewer line comes online that Pat was talking about, as we connect more customers to the system, we will get a better idea of where those sewer increases need to be. But my recommendation to you right now, in light of customer affordability, in light of overall district financial performance, is to remain with those 3% sewer increases for now. I would anticipate, well, I'll just tell you flat out, you're going to need to look at this every year because things are changing. Variables are changing. Nobody foresaw a global pandemic. Nobody foresaw inflation running at 8%. So you have to continue to monitor this plan, and there will likely be a time in the future when some of these sewer increases may need to go up as we look at 26, 27, or 2028. But our recommendation right now is just stick with that 3%.
So for, again, this is Nick Sherman. So we're recommending a greater than national average increase for water, but a lower than national average increase for wastewater.
Yes, sir.
On this wastewater, can you give me a ballpark as to what it would take as an increase to get wastewater to where apparently water is not having to subsidize it?
I don't have that number offhand right now, but I can get you that number. It is double digits. We're talking.
It is double digits.
We're possibly talking 20, 25%, if not higher than that. And I will work to get you that number.
Okay, and this is a side note, this board needs to look at this annually. Because we may not have made some of the decisions we've made in the past, specifically with expenditures on wastewater, if we knew that we were facing a potentially 20 to 25% budget deficit. And that's just a side note.
Thank you, sir. Please continue.
So our next two slides, what we're showing here is just a proof out of option one, option two, looking at what combined financial performance looks like. Again, we're really targeting that debt service coverage number, making sure we're hitting that 1.25 times coverage amount, making sure that we can pay our debt, pay our obligations there. So again, option one, option two, both get you to the same place. They both get you where you need to be financially long term. But what I'd like to do is, if we can, let's move on to some customer impacts. What we have for you today is we're going to show you the customer impact for residential customers at 5,000 gallons, 7,500 gallons, and 10,000 gallons. So your 5,000 gallons, that's probably going to be more of your winter water use by customer. 7,500 gallons, more of your average use. 10,000 gallons, that's going to be a higher overall level of use. So again, 3 different residential impacts that we're looking at here, assuming a 5/8 inch connection. You see at the top what our original rate plan was, both for water and wastewater. So originally we were anticipating in 2023 to be at 101.49. We're actually at 97.48 for a combined water and wastewater bill. For 2024, option one would increase that bill, the combined water and wastewater bill, $4.05 a month. Option two would actually take it closer to $5 a month, $4.92. So again, option two, slightly more aggressive than option one, but both of these options get you in the same place long term. When we break this out, and what you're going to see on these next two slides is I'm going to have a slide for option one and a slide for option two. So option one here shows you that breakout, that change for water. So the water increase there is $2.45 a month. For 2024, the wastewater is $1.60 a month. That gets you to the total increase there of $4.05. Option two, which is again the more aggressive option, $4.92. The water increase there is $3.32. But again, that gets you to the $4.92 total. So that's the 5,000 gallon bill. For a 7,500 gallon bill, again, this is more your average annual use. $5.28 would be the increase in 2024 combined water and wastewater bill. Option two, $6.40. That's the little more aggressive option. And when we break these out between option one, you can see the water component of that is $3.23, wastewater $2.05. But then option two, the water increase goes to $4.35. And again, that is a monthly increase, the monthly increase in the water bill.
Mr. President, can I make a quick comment? If you'll give me just a second, sir.
Yes, please.
And I'd like feedback from other board members because I probably fall user wise in the 5,000 to 7,500 water use. And
Mr. Robertson, can you hang on to that question? Let him finish his overview, please. I really want to hear your question. Let's give him a chance to go over all of his information and then, yeah, absolutely.
That's good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Please continue.
All right, thank you. So on the 10,000 gallon side, the monthly increase $6.50, option two, $7.87. Again, we break that out. The water component of that is $4 under option one. And again, that's 10,000 gallons of use. Option two, $5.37. So as I've presented to the board before, I've shown you similar slides to this. This is what we call a regional bill comparison, where we go and look at the district compared to surrounding communities, other entities in the area. And I've probably used this exact language before. When you look at charts like this is not an apples to apples comparison. Every community is different. There's different growth. There's different decisions made in terms of how to finance, how to support the utility financially. So you do have to take this with that in mind. This is not apples to apples. You have to do what's right for the district, maintaining the financial the financial stability, the financial integrity of the district. And sometimes that may be more aggressive rate action than what other communities are taking. But 5,000 gallons, looking at water only. Right now that bill is $44.40. Option two, the more aggressive rate increase, $47.72. Option one, the less aggressive increase, $46.85. And you can see how you compare to other entities, other providers there. On a 5,000 gallon sewer basis, again, you're basically right in the middle of the market. If you want to call this a market, you're right in the middle of the market right now. Current, that's 5308. You can see the impacts for option one and option two, what those increases are there. And again, that's 5,000 gallon sewer only bill. When you put those together, so again, the blue line here is the water side of the bill. The green line is the wastewater side of the bill. So blue water, green wastewater, you see what that combined bill looks like at that point when you're putting water and wastewater together. Again, you've got other districts here that do not provide wastewater, so they don't have a green component to their bar. Many of you will note some other communities have other additional fees that they tack on to the bill. We have included those additional fees in the bill calculation. So for example, Crystal Clear has a depreciation fee. They've got a Canyon Regional fee. They've got a regulatory compliance fee. All of that is included in this comparison. And so towards we've got some information there that we can provide you on how these are calculated if you'd like to see that, but you are looking at an all-in bill here. For 7,500 gallons, you're looking at water only. Again, current bill 5838. You see the impact of option 1 and option 2. I will also mention to you, we are comparing, this is today, this is how things exist today. Other communities on this list are going through this very same exercise right now. They are looking at their rates as well. When we rerun this in October or January, it may look different. So we are looking at your future option 1 or option 2 against everybody else's today rates. But that's the water only for 7,500 gallons, sewer 7,500 gallons. You see the impacts there. Again, that current bill is 6803. And then of course we put that together. That's the combined bill at 7,500 gallons, more of your average user. Finally, same comparisons for 10,000 gallons. That's a larger user. Current bill 7235. You see the increases. Sewer only 8298 is the current bill. And again, we put those together and you see the impacts there. Current bill 155.33 going up to either basically 162 or 163. So there's not a significant difference in those figures. So again, lots of information here, lots of summary level information. I don't believe we're looking for action today, but I am happy to answer any questions, or if there's other information that the board needs, we're happy to gather that for you and provide that to you at another point in time, or sit down with any board members that would like us to and walk through more details on this. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Robertson?
Didn't so much have a question for the presenter as a feedback of the board members, because I'm a relatively low water user. But realize some of the folks in residential areas, say in Cibolo, may have watering systems. So do you feel, and I'm looking for feedback from other board members to get a scope of things, in my perspective, is you think most of the Cibolo users fall in the 7,500 to 10,000 gallons a month perspective?
7,500.
7,500 perhaps?
Personally, I certainly fall more in the 10,000 range.
Okay.
I have multiple children that are apparently filthy, and I ran two loads of laundry through the washer before I came out here this morning. So we run washer, dishwasher all the time. I have, with all the rains, I've personally shut my irrigation system off.
Okay.
I've just turned it back on just recently. So I went a whole month, recently without irrigation, but we use a lot of water just because of our family.
Oh, see, that's what I'm trying to get a perspective is what's more important to the ratepayers in general? The 5,000 gallons a month number or the 7,500 to 10,000 numbers?
Definitely say this.
And what I'm getting a feel from y'all, and it's y'all's consideration is important to me, is like 7,500 to 10,000
And a pool user is going to be 10,000.
at least.
And
guaranteed.
Mr. Robertson, I've got the old study here, and we didn't include the 7,500
Yeah, I think it was
categories.
just 10,000.
It was 5 and 10.
Right.
So we are including a wider range where we can see what it would look like.
Yeah.
There were some discrepancies between the two plans for the same volume at the same rate that I was probably outside the meeting I'll touch on.
Right.
But yeah, it's
Well, I
It's a
think I
lot.
can, sir, I would request a meeting with you. We need to have some more information, so I'll leave it to Mr. Allen to try and schedule a separate meeting to discuss the rate analysis. Is that appropriate?
Sure. Do you want that for the full board? So we'll have to do it as a workshop? or-
I feel like
special-
We can talk about that.
I feel like if we're discussing potential 8% year over year rate increases, the whole board should be aware of it, and the public's going to be interested in it. I did have one question before we get off onto just
Hold-
board
Give me just a
discussion.
second. Shan, What is the legal requirement for rate increase and implementation?
Well, we have to provide notice of 30 days before it goes in advance. And so the discussion and the adoption, the proposed adoption of the rate increase can happen in the course of a regular meeting with regular meeting notice. But before those rates go into effect, you have to publicly notice it. And the reason that you do that is because while the Public Utility Commission has limited jurisdiction over our rate increases, there is a provision that allows a certain percentage of the customers to petition. I believe it's a minimum of 10% to petition the commission on the ground that the increase is unreasonable. And so that's why you have to do that 30 days notice and publication of the rates before they go into effect.
Okay, thank you.
If
I
I
just wanted
remember,
to make sure we understood the time clock.
if I remember right, we usually give them longer than 30 days. It's usually what, 3 or 4 months?
Several months.
Yeah.
That's been the practice
Before
here
the
since I've been
implementation.
here.
But the action in 2022, we didn't, it wasn't labeled a discussion action item. So I raised protest that we didn't notice it correctly, but with our boilerplate language, we were told we can do it. So I think it's wise to not take, and apparently we're not even proposing any action for 23.
I'd like to suggest right now that we continue this conversation in executive session on a go forward strategy.
Can we
Or-
do that? I don't
We
know
can
that
do that under general advice of counsel.
Okay, thank you. Have any objections? And then.
And you can quote the code that supports that?
Section 552.071 of the government
Okay,
code.
just making sure. Want to make sure we're not going into closed session
understand.
for no reason.
I appreciate it.
We'll save it for executive session. We're not going to go into closed session right now.
Okay.
We'll save this item to finish the discussion in executive session.
Today or in the?
Today.
Okay.
Today.
And then one more before the consultant goes, unless he's already gone.
No, I'm here.
On
I'm here.
one of the last pages, you've got 58.9 million of capital improvement projects.
Yes, sir.
Are those proposed new costs or are they included in the 107 million of bond money on our previous audit?
So
This last page,
that would be a new debt
Second to
issue
last.
that we have programmed in. And I believe it was programmed in as a debt issue in 2025 is when that was programmed in. So that is impacting the analysis, is another debt issue going forward to fund those projects.
So 58.9 million in 2025, in addition to and I brought my old audit with me, 107 million that we have existing bonds on.
Yes, sir. So this would
The
this
second
would
to
all
last
this would
page.
this would be new debt that we've programmed in here.
Hang on, let me make sure the rest of the board has this.
Okay.
So this was handed to me yesterday when I came up here to get a copy of the 22 version. 28, page number 28. And I have a page number 29. Do y'all not have that?
Ours stops at 26.
Stops at 26.
So we had some supplemental slides there that probably did not get put in a printed packet, but what you see on the screen there, that's the 58.9 million.
So I have that. I happened to come up here yesterday for other information and it was printed for me. And specifically the 1.25 MGD plant expansion, I was spitballing 40 million on. I wanted to make sure you had that covered in there. And if we're spending $45 million on a wastewater plant expansion, a 3% rate increase is not reasonable.
And there again, these are projected numbers.
Fine.
Because we got a water line,
Thank you.
elevated storage tank, water, plant 9 improvement, that's water. County Line Road, Tolly Road, FM 78, I assume that's a water project. And then a $45 million wastewater project. Let's talk more.
Yeah, talking. Yeah. All right. Any other questions, concern on item L? Chris, thank you so much for your input. We look forward to working with you further on this. Obviously, it's a big decision. We take it seriously. So
I understand. Thank you
Thank
for your
you.
time. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Chris.
All right, let's take, it's now 10:24. Let's take a 10-minute pause for the cause. Meet back here at 10:35, please. Thank you. All right, it's 10:35. We're back in session. Moving on to item E12, building operations. Here, the Assistant General Manager report updates from Mr. DeFrancesco. Sir.
Good morning. In the last meeting that we had, the board had requested an updated report on expenses. You should have that in your packets. Just did a quick summary. It's a 3-page report. The final page was an updated version of what was presented to the board probably 3 months back. Specifically last month when there was a question on the change order, that is what that final section of page 3 kind of summarizes the changes that happened and what was attributed to the general allowance. Getting a look, do y'all have it in your packet?
The add-on they gave us this morning.
Yep.
That's the add-on they gave us.
Okay.
Please get everything in our packet so we don't look at it for the first time when you're talking about it.
So it's a summary of expenses that, all right, so we'll start on page 1. The board had requested expenses on from the beginning of the project when the land was purchased. I've got it broken down as well as the design and engineering expenses, the expenses paid to Dry-Mala, the general contractor for the construction of it, as well as the kind of other expenses miscellaneous, such as items that weren't included in the general construction expenses, such as furniture, telephones, general IT equipment, networking equipment. At the bottom of the first page is the kind of the cost drivers. The biggest cost driver was, as was mentioned in the rate analysis study, just the cost of materials that increased. Funding mechanisms for the project were 2 loans that the board approved, one in 2021 and one in 2022, because the initial cost came in higher than what was budgeted for the first funding. And then just had a conclusion that the actual construction did come in under budget from what Dry-Mala bid. We're happy about that. And if you have any questions, which I'm assuming you will, since this is the first time you're seeing it, feel free to ask.
Board, any questions, concerns?
I'm still trying to read everything and do math. All right, so Philip, under the item number 6, the project funding. So we had an initial loan of 19,540,000, a secondary loan that the component for the building was 6,974,000. So my iPhone calculator tells me that's 26,514,000.
Right.
So that's more than your total.
Yeah, that
So what do
19 million, sorry, may I interrupt you?
Please.
The 19 million from the first loan also included other projects, water
Okay.
projects as well.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
That's a Plan 11 expansion project, the ground storage tank and pumps at Plan 11 was included in that initial loan.
So I guess for clarification, in one paragraph, you break out how much of the loan was for the building, and in another paragraph, we don't break that out. But I believe you break it out grand total on these 4 categories on the first page under the expense breakdown.
On the very top, the heading of page 3, it's at 23.4 million.
And that's what I'm interested in knowing, because I get asked, how much did all this cost? And I've ballparked it myself, and I was spitballing 23 million.
Right. And
So
the reason I broke down the funding costs as well is because obviously there were 2 different rates for
Yep.
that, so.
All costs are complete? This is the final bill?
We've got, as we're getting in here and finding, hey, we need microphones, as was mentioned in the last board meeting, there's going to be additional costs, but as far as construction, yes, it's complete.
I would be completely comfortable waiting till next budget year to get a few more microphones. Because I think I was the one that mentioned that, but it is what it is. I personally think was too much. We've talked through about that. We have to figure out how we pay for everything now, because the rate study was what I was looking for. It's a lot. And the public is going to say, or at least segments of the public is going to say, this building is what's causing some of the rate increases, which is not 100% true. It's part of it, but I want to understand exactly what part of it is. And this breakdown gives it to me. So this is exactly what I was looking for. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your work on that, Philip. Directors, any other questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate the report. Sorry, I lost my place.
E13.
E13, operations report, Ms. Pam?
I don't think I have this.
I don't think I do.
Okay. I know you were probably working with getting the study in here.
Well, a lot of the staff have been involved in training on the new billing system, so it's been really, had several people out in that. But we also, Nick, on the back side of that page included top left of our water reserves, you requested the acre foot amount is listed there, so.
Yeah, that's, I noticed that
That's
immediately.
one of the reasons for the delay. I said we need to include that on there, so we pulled it Friday afternoon before the Battle Preggers hat, knowing we'd have to hand it out this morning.
Appreciate the added detail.
On that added detail, if you're talking about the acre foot there, if you'll see on the bottom of that scale, is the ARW phase 2. That's future water. That'd be an expansion. That's nothing funded, nothing costing us at this point, but should phase 2, when phase 2 comes around, whatever year that should be, that would be approximately the amount that we would be earmarked for.
And then, Mr. Robertson, you were discussing what is a reasonable estimate of volume to look at. I always look for that average residential customer on the flip side of the sheet you're looking at. It's showing, yeah, flip it over. On the left there in the middle of the page, it's listing 6424 gallons as the average residential customer. So I think in our rate study, that 7,500 is probably the most useful table to review.
Yeah, because you got to remember, our customer base is both urban and rural. And so most of the water usage is more urban setting where sprinkler system and thus are more the norm, whereas the residential out in the rural areas normally do not have sprinkler systems. And so the water use capital is, so that changes that average number. If we were just looking at the subdivision, it'd be a different number, higher number. But it does bring our average down to about 6,400 gallons at the present time. That fluctuates from month to month. But
Well, 'cause myself and my yard have an agreement. It don't grow, so I won't mow it.
yeah,
When will you start adding in Wells Ranch 3?
I don't have a date for that. We have, as you know, at CRWA, other things we're looking at besides Wells Ranch 3. And I've expressed my concerns of, we have some repairs at our current plant that we need to do. And I don't think all the entities that are wanting to be involved in Wells Ranch 3 they're committed, but they have not, haven't done a hard commitment. That's why I haven't brought a lot to the board, because it's still forming up.
No, it's still in process.
Still in process. And I didn't want to bring y'all stuff now and it changed drastically 3 months from now. So I'll try to give you an updated report next month, kind of where we are with that and what we're looking at.
But personally, my concern is the cost obviously involved in
Of
Wells
course,
Ranch 3.
yes.
It's going to be substantial.
Oh, I've got questions for you on the CRWA category.
Well, the one thing
Christie's
about,
right there.
one thing that puts Green Valley in a very good position with Wells Ranch 3 is that we are heavily committed on the Wells Ranch 2, which was a blessing for us when we did that. It was a good idea and it was a good decision by this board at the time that we did that commitment, because it lowers our cost for Wells Ranch 3. And that's very important, because we're about the only entity, I believe, that's in that position. The other entities have to buy in heavily to that project, even achieve parity with us. So we're in a good position for that. But
Shape than others.
we'll talk about that when I do that presentation.
Thank you. It's just an upcoming concern. Any questions for Ms. Pam? All right, let's move on to item 2, board committees. There are no new reports except Mr. Sherman, his committee met. Would you like to do a quick overview?
My notes were handed out this morning. I was hoping they would get emailed out, but they're here. We had a good meeting. We had Pat, Samantha, and then the 4 committee members, Mr. Robertson, Mr. King, myself, and Mr. Rose. I thought it went pretty well, about 45 minutes, an hour for the kickoff meeting. I don't think it needed to be much longer than that. We do request that the key committees that are required to have, give us a breakdown, a description of your committee so that we can capture those descriptions into our proposed modifications to the bylaws.
The report
There's-
that I
yeah,
put
there's-
together wasn't enough?
I've got a date with David after this meeting to get my email squared away. So if you've emailed me something in the last week, I've not seen it.
Okay. All right, thank you. Anything else from the committees?
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you type this up
Yes.
as you reference yourself as Mr. Sherman. Just curious.
Well, I didn't think I should put me, myself. You never know who is going to be reading it, so they might not know myself.
Mr. Rose? We've. Oh, I'm sorry. They didn't give me any. I apologize, Mr. Rose, please.
So on M also, for just a short brief.
What, while you're up there, what were the items that you signed up for?
Yeah, I don't want to screw this up.
E2I,
E2I
2, which was public, and then M.
and M.
Side note, when you sign, I try to, if I'm going to send to Tracy the items I'm going to speak to give it to you that.
Did give that to me and I left it sitting on my desk.
No
I
problem.
apologize.
But there's also no ability on your sign-in roster to sign in for anything other than public comments.
Okay, thank you.
And your rules allow us to speak on any agenda item. I'm going to go off script here for a minute. If I'm out of order, please just stop me, Mr. President. We had 2 of our Cibolo City Council people here today. I don't know where they're here because at the last council meeting, I told them, number one, we've got a board willing to work with them, but it's a 2-way street. They need to work with you. I don't know whether we're here because I told them I'm getting tired as a Green Valley ratepayer paying for Green Valley's lawyer and Cibolo's lawyer. I'm paying for both lawyers to fight each other. I know that's a long ongoing issue, but doggone it, we need to get this thing settled. That Cibolo just raised their budget for this lawsuit against you by $182,000 last month and no questions asked. So something's going on there. But anyway, hopefully, I'm not sure why they were here, but I'm glad they were here because I've also told them they ought to come out and see this beautiful facility. So, and let me get back on the comment for on the facilities committee. Another interesting question that was asked 2 years ago was, quote, will any part of the existing facility continue to be used once the new facility is completed, unquote. The response was that you had not reached a final decision on whether to retain the existing facility at that time. Here we are 2 years plus after the issue was raised and now that facility is empty. You're now going to look at it and see if it's even worth saving or using. It looks like the 2 small conference rooms and the meet me room you have in this new building you still have a new facility, may be needed in the future for office space in the future. But you still have the old exercise room now called the flex room available for future office space. Of course, you do have lots of space in the training room and the executive conference room that could be utilized or reconfigured in a year or 2. But responses all stated that all these conference rooms were needed. You might want to look hard at the old facility to be used for storage and conference space in the future, as you have designed a facility that will not handle additional staff in the next 20, let alone the 40 to 50 years you said this building was going to take you through. It looks like at some point, without using conference rooms and doubling staff up in existing facilities, you're going to have to start making changes. I hope the report back from the facilities committee will not report that the building has not been maintained as it should have been, and it will be too expensive to make usable for the future. You really need to look at using that for future growth because I think you're already out of space in this building. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? Is that allowed?
I'm sorry?
This is an agenda item, so you can have a general discussion about the.
I just want to ask Mr. Rose a question. When you're talking about the other building and maintenance, do you mean that we can't just let them sit empty with nobody ever going in there? We need to actually actively make sure the building is kept up so that we don't have future costs associated with damage? Because as we all know, a deserted building will slowly
Oh,
deteriorate.
absolutely. You can't just shut the doors and turn the air conditioning off.
That's
The-
what I mean. Is
the
that what you're
mold will-
referring to?
The mold will start growing on you if it's not already growing on you over there.
Okay.
My issue was 2 years ago was I felt when I saw the plans of this building that it was not designed for 20 to 40 years out, as you said it was. You've got some beautiful conference rooms in here. You've got meet me rooms in here. We've got hallway space out here that's unbelievable square footage. I keep looking at, what do you have, 3 customer service desks out here, I believe? Is it 3?
I think it's 3, yeah, right there.
Okay, and you've got 4 drive-throughs, okay? But if you look through there, I see 1 staff member manning desks. So we've actually got growth there. It looks like there's 1 manning the drive-throughs. So we've got growth there, all right? You got a training room back there designed for 75 people. You've put, looks like, I haven't been in it yet because nobody wants to allow ratepayers to see the facilities. We have all these nice signs. Keep your fannies out of here unless you're a board member or staff, all right? Those are very disturbing. I understand security, but you need to find a way. And I've also addressed to the facilities committee, I think you need an open house real quick, folks. We don't need to be delaying this. It needs to be open to public and it needs to be open at night so the ratepayers can get here. But again, back to your question, Mr. Hendricks, the old facility, I never, ever once said you do not need new facilities over here. You needed new facilities. What you had was completely insufficient. But this stuff is way beyond what you need. Like I said, please somebody come and tell me personally why you need this double glass windows back here, looking at an executive conference room with draw blinds on the other side and curtains on this side. When are they ever going to be open and why would it, that thousands of dollars right there, thousands of dollars.
So I can talk on that.
Please.
So it's our executive session room.
Yes, ma'am.
So the blinds in there and the curtains were partly my idea as long as Cody, and because when you can stand there, you can see inside that room through the blinds. And if we have the monitors on, then you can see what we're trying to talk about. And so that's a no-no. So the curtains were put there at an after thing, thinking that because I have somebody standing there, then they can see through.
Well,
I mean, it didn't cost $1,000. I mean, I'm sorry, it's a couple $100 maybe. Curtains weren't
for
that
the windows,
expensive.
the windows and all the drapes and blind in there, a couple $100, no way. No way.
Okay, so well, I'm giving him facts because he's saying that they're not, so I'm giving you facts. So the facility committee has talked about the old building. There are people interested in the building. So that is being discussed. We haven't had a meeting about that recently. We'll have to get together whenever Frias is, God forbid, better. So.
God
Well, I
willing,
mean,
God willing.
God willing,
She's
I'm
flustered.
sorry.
She's flustered. I'm not, I'm gonna back her up on that.
I'm gonna quote you on
I
that
prayed
one.
for him this morning, so I
Yeah.
want him to get better. I'm sorry, that was wrong. So that will be a discussion and we've talked to Pat. Pat's gave us some ideas. So it's going to be dealt with. It's just 2 years ago, we didn't know what to do with it because we just started the process and we were still utilizing it. So there's no reason to go out and find anybody that wanted it because that was 2 years ago. So now we're actively trying to find somebody that will buy it or lease it, whatever we can do legally and utilize it and not, just let it sit there and waste away. Now that we're almost out of it completely.
In process.
It's in process, right?
And I agree with that, ma'am. But I raised the issue over 2 years ago that I felt that this facility, the way it was being designed, was not going to take you 20 to 40 years out. And that you need to be thinking about that building. Because I think you could have, you kept saying that this building, the answers was, we've got all these meetings over here. We need all these conference rooms in here. And my issue was then is, why don't you use the square footage in this building to maintain, for your staff? Because you could have been using the old building if you maintained it properly for all this conference and storage area over there. I think you're gonna be out of space. I mean, when I look at the
So-
numbers, I see you out of space already.
That's
the-
why I,
That you're between January, when you put out when the staff put out where you were gonna put people, that completely changed in a few months when you moved them in.
Right. So when we designed this building, we designed it for future build out. All that grass area that you see in the back, that's all for future build out. That can fit, I don't know how many offices. So when we designed this building, we thought of future build out. So we didn't have to use the other building.
Okay, but your responses were always, this building will take us 20 to 30 out. Not that we've got more land to do more building on to get us 20 to 40 years out.
Again, Mr. Rose, thank you very much for your comments. This is not the place or time for debate about this. So I can tell you, Mr. Allen, we do have a tentative open house date set.
Well, that's something we need to discuss as a board. I'm waiting for board direction on that. When would they like to have that?
We'll get that done,
But
Mr. Rose.
it is in the
I
plans.
promise you.
You gave that to the facilities committee to set up the open house.
I believe so.
That's why I addressed it to them.
And
Thank you.
James,
Thank you.
Ms. Cooper, I have one thing to say. James, I think we are maintaining over there. We're not just turning it off. I mean, because we had an invoice for refrigerant for an AC. And I assume that's over there because if it's for this building, it should be under warranty, but we are maintaining the air conditioner. We're running it over
that's
there.
why I wanted to bring him back. Because I was trying to clarify that that's what he was talking about, that we are maintaining this because we
no,
know,
that's
we
good.
know if we just turn all the
Oh,
power
you're
off
gonna
and
have
everything.
more issues.
Yeah, it's just gonna
More
go to
issues.
crap and
No,
we're gonna
you've
have
got
more
to
to
keep
pay.
it on.
But yeah, I wanted to clarify that that's what
Oh,
we
no, I
are doing.
appreciate that.
Okay.
yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. But if somebody could give me some answers on why we put this double window here, I didn't need her to answer that one. I'd
Thank
appreciate
you,
it.
Mr. Rose.
Thank you.
All right, move on to item 3, CRWA board meeting. Ms. Miller?
So I do not have the report because my father-in-law passed away Friday morning. So I had not had time to sit down and go over my notes. I do know there was 15 people in attendance. We spent a lot of time in executive session. So the open meeting time really wasn't a lot discussed. That's all I remember at the moment.
I apologize. I'm relatively unprepared to give you a full rundown. I will tell you that I received a report from CRWA, thanks to Clint Ellis, with usage from each of the entities from CRWA. So if anybody wants a copy of this report, I think I sent it to you, Mr. Sherman. Your email.
Like I said, David, I'm gonna tackle him when he leaves the room, make sure I'm squared away.
No problem, no problem.
But that was one of my questions. So thank you for asking the question in the meeting.
Trying to get that determined. Obviously, the biggest concerns at CRWA is the summertime heating, pump and well efficiencies. We still have pumps that are down. The latest big concern is the same one we're having here, the equipment and order timeline to be able to get equipment in here. It's a constant problem between when the item is needed and when it's actually able to be supplied. CRWA is having continuing ongoing issues with that. Mr. Allen, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Well, I wasn't at the meeting, as you know. I had a late meeting that night. I was here rather late that night, so I missed the meeting entirely. But I know Mr. Sherman questioned me on the usage, was concerned, is Green Valley going over its contract, and we're not. And I confirmed that with them, but there is some entities maybe using more than what their contract limits are. That happens from time to time, but there is a rate that is paid. It's a nominal rate. But years ago, we addressed that on the Lake Dunlap side when entities were doing that, and we solved that issue. Since then, the rate structure has been changed. The usage are entities breaking their contract limits have been a very, very small issue, if any at all. So Green Valley has quite a bit of capacity, both Lake Dunlap and Wells Ranch, which is a benefit for us. So it'd be difficult for us to break that contract. Something else would be going on. One other thing that our usage is somewhat down, and so you might also have, if you track the revenues from month to month or from year to year, this time last year, we had 35 construction meters out. And we have just a handful of them now. So that makes a big difference in development construction on water usage and those things. If you remember last year, there was some little struggle for a day or two. I forgot what month, it was June or July, that we had to curtail usage on those meters until CRWA could catch up. Once they caught up, everything was fine, but there was a day and a half there that we had to curtail that usage. We've not had that issue this year at all. So, of course, we've had more rains than recently, so that was a benefit, but we're doing well with CRW at this point. But still have some concerns that we have to talk about with them.
Yeah, it's an ongoing process.
And then Steve, I appreciate, so CRWA puts everything out there for the public to know. So the copy of Martindale's Haymaker of a letter was just out there for me to see. Apparently Martindale feels one of the other users is over pumping, and that all got pushed to executive session. Was that in
A lot more to that story.
Well, but it was an executive session. I'm just reading what's available to me. Was that an attorney that jumped up and wanted to do all the speaking from the audience?
I believe so.
And then I appreciate that the board president said, no, you're not a
He's
a
not
director.
authorized. Yeah.
You're not going into executive session, which I think is the correct thing to do there.
Yeah, no, he was
um,
excused.
And
So-
trust me, nothing was resolved.
So, but I do have a question under item 7. Someone said that 850 additional acre feet of water were requested by Green Valley. Is that exclusively us, or was that us and another entity as part of Wells Ranch Phase 3?
I believe they're talking about there is, Jason,
Was
correct me if
regarding
I
the
don't say this right. There's, I think
DNP
there's
backed out of
850 acre feet of water available left on the table.
Yes.
And I said if there's additional water available, Springs Hill's taking some, Green Valley put their hands up for some.
So we
East
can
Central
ask all
said,
of it. We're maybe splitting that
we
between.
may split that with East Central. You never want to leave water on the table because you'll need it. And so,
Want to make sure we're really clear. Pat didn't go requesting more water. It
No.
was just, we had the opportunity to pick up usage that was unclaimed.
And I think, and this is tied to Wells Ranch Phase 3, and last month here, I think it was here, we said we were asking for about 2,000 acre feet of water.
that's what I put in
So
for
we're maybe
2,000.
Asking for about
And I-
2,500.
And I use that as a mark to see what those costs, how it affect us, how could we utilize that? After their leasing, activities, they've discovered they have additional water available. Springs Hill didn't want it. East Central and I looked at each other and says, well, we'll split it. Add a little more to us, add a little to them, but that's as far as that discussion has gone.
And in general, why I bring this up is I want to spend money on acquiring water. But based on our presentation we've had, we've really got to look at what we're doing so that we can spend money on, I think this is a good expenditure of money on forever access to water. We got to be careful what we're spending money on that is
Rational
maybe a
expenditures.
want versus a need.
Amen. Couldn't
And
agree more.
previous boards have made decisions that all the debt service is hitting now, and we're gonna have to figure it out. This is something we should spend money on, but I gotta make sure that we can afford to spend that money.
We'll also have to remember in our rate structure, our water acquisition fee that we charge every time we set a meter, not per customer, not customer based every month, but on new development, helps pay that bond debt on these type of water projects. So, or a certain part of that bond debt. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, concern on this portion? Because I'm really looking forward to the next. I just received this report, the Water Distribution Master Plan, CRWA, and we asked that Mr. Vreeland come speak to us about this. This is an important bit of information. Please.
Sure, and just a note on what Pat was referring to, in the Wells Ranch 3, and it's all about a capacity issue, capacity of the existing system, and what's available on the existing pipeline and all that. So that 850 Pat was talking about is just that extra capacity that's available, and it's just all up in the air, just theoretical. What would each entity like? But as far as the master plan for CRWA, this was something that has been in the works for a couple years. CRWA did not have a master plan prior to this. So 30 years of existence and there was no master plan. We developed a master plan just to look at CIP improvements that, will be needed over the next, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So there's modeling done, collecting of data from SCADA, from, fire hydrants, different, different, avenues, and then it was all put into this report. And we also used all the information that, some of it overlaps the Wells Ranch 3 information on additional water needed in the future. That was put into this report as well. So I can walk through it, or if you have, specific questions you'd like to ask, or.
I'm concerned. I'd really like your input on potential increases year over year at a time when we're looking at a rate increase. What is CRWA's projections for us?
So the projections that are providing this report are basically what was provided by Green Valley
Our staff.
Yep, and they were put into here saying, assuming that the water that you're going to be needing is going to be provided by CRWA. So that's what was used to develop the master plan.
So this wasn't developed separately from Pat's team. It was
Nope, it
in
was
unison with.
Yes, sir. We, Tri-Hydro and CRWA staff had met with all of the entities at different times and provided, all but one of the entities, and received information on that. And it was kind of in conjunction also with the Wells Ranch 3.
The only comments I had are just maybe a little bit more detail, the different facilities. I wrote, what's the capacity of these? And then figure 3.3-1.1, I wrote, how much water is each entity entitled to? Just data. I mean, that's what I like to see.
It's in your email.
Yeah.
It's in your email.
That's an
On the
excellent-
actual, contracted capacities. Yep, I got that.
That information I sent you will be helpful.
Thank you. I'll look at it today when I get David.
Any other questions, concern? I know it's a lot of information, but we are very close partners with CRWA and we need to maintain that relationship.
We're the second largest user behind SAW, I think. Is that right?
Yep.
Is that right, Pat?
That's correct.
And these are important, not just to be able to plan, future expenditures, but they're used for everything, especially for entities like Green Valley for, your impact fees and things like that. So these master plans are good to see, and Green Valley has one as well.
We were probably the only entity at CRWA other than SAWS that for the last 4 to 5 years, we've set up anywhere from 800 to 1,000 connections per year. A lot of these other ones are 200, 150, 300, way below what we're having to deal with. So more customers, more usage. It's just hand in hand. So I will say our per capita use per customer is low, probably lowest of the region. And there again, that's because we have rural, we have urban, so it skews that number. It changes that number, but we look at all those things.
I can guarantee you, Ms. Miller and I have become very involved in CRWA between the construction committee, the regular meetings, and because there is so much going on. There's something new, it seems like every week. So thank you, Mr. Vreeland. Appreciate your time. Moving on to item 4, here engineers report from Tri-Hydro and Utility Engineers Group for water, wastewater construction projects and proposed new development. Mr. Montgomery?
Provided a memo and a map. Nothing to add to the memo, but happy to answer any questions if there are some.
Questions, concerns? Appreciate the detailed information in the report. Thank you.
Oh, I do have one. I'm sorry. I was looking for my note. What is Falcon Reg meeting? That was included under the descriptions and the invoicing. Is that a development, and does reg stand for regular maybe?
I'm not sure what it is. It's a convenience store or truck stop type development, commercial development over off of Zeal Road and IH-10.
I just didn't know what it was.
Yeah, we're seeing all kinds of names on LLCs, and that's what it's called, Falcon Rig LLC.
What is the latest status on that one? Are they on hold because of the I-10 construction?
I think so. I haven't heard anything from them. We had a couple of calls. They had a pre-development meeting with Cibolo, and that's what that meeting was. But since then, I haven't heard anything, so I'm not sure where they are.
Everything along I-10, any potential construction, because there aren't any
Yeah,
bridges.
there's some
There-
significant challenges with that project. It's in the flood.
Yeah.
Access is limited by I-10. TxDOT actually owns that jug handle also, so they have to go
Yeah.
through TxDOT access even if they go on Zill Road. So there's some significant challenges with that project and getting it.
Yeah, because
I would guess they're probably working on a floodplain study to see what they can
Yeah.
mitigate. On
I mean, it's a real trip. I don't have.
His ears are burning right now because you brought up the bridges. He's hot about those bridges.
Oh, him? Yes.
It
Well,
dramatically affects him.
when I went to Seguin the other day, I had to go all the way down to 465 to get on I-10 East. Because both of those bridges are out.
I couldn't get over to exit for Trainer Hale eastbound, and I had to go all the way down to our plant to turn around. It's that far. All the bridges are
I
closed.
know it's terrible. It's just, in one respect, it slowed any potential construction down. Just for the fact that nobody wants to invest in it until they get a clearer picture that TxDOT is done.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you.
But I can guarantee you, I-10 project is going better than the 1103 project.
Yes.
Well, can I say they probably aren't starting 1103 because Cibola Valley Drive's a mess. So they're probably waiting so people can travel that.
No, it's different. It's TxDOT project versus a city project. It's, I don't know. There's something else going on. They're blaming utility relocations. And I pointed out, no, Green Valley has relocated our water lines, what, a year and a half ago?
Yep.
Cibola moved theirs. I've seen GVC put all their poles back. I
Right.
think there's something else going on. But that's
Uh,
not this discussion.
Mr. Vreeland, do you have anything to add to your report?
You have my report, and I guess the only thing I can touch on is just the status of, one of our projects, and that's Klein Road, and it's just lagging a little bit behind. It's the progress the contractor's making is going a little bit slower than anticipated, so, hopefully they'll be done in the next couple of weeks, but that is, causing some delays, and, we're having to work with the city of New Braunfels a little bit just to make sure that, we're not in their way as they expand that roadway.
Reuse irrigation water system. Project status. The city of New Braunfels anticipates breaking ground on the project in fall 23. GVSUD staff and the city are in discussions regarding a non-standard service agreement. We expect an agreement to be presented to the board in July.
Yes, sir.
Is it going to be presented the way we expect it to?
It should be, hopefully. We're Green Valley staff and even Tri-Hydro on an unlimited basis have been in communication with the city and just going back and forth on the language of the agreement itself. And it's generally, in line with what we had discussed.
Generally, we'll see what it looks like in
Yeah,
July.
and I mean, we can discuss specifics, but I mean, obviously that would probably be,
I
better
think-
for closed session.
I know the only discussion I've had on specifics has been in closed session, so I don't want to discuss it openly, but
Correct.
I
Yeah.
know we've given pretty firm direction, so.
Yeah, and as far as fee structures, things like that is in line with what we had discussed previously.
Okay.
But again, I would expect in July, we're getting really close. We have it down to just a few comments left on that agreement. And then it'll hopefully be in front of you for discussion and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Moving on to item F, consider proposed GVSUD credit card policy and take action as necessary. Who is handling that one? Please feel free. Mr. Andrews.
This is the proposed credit card policy. I don't know if you guys read over it all or not yet. Do you guys have any questions? If you have or have not read it or not? No comments?
I think it's awesome. The work
So,
was incredible.
I do have a couple comments.
Okay.
We outline, what happens if someone violates the policy, but we don't explain what a violation would be. I think we need to put, for example, some of the stuff I brought up previously is, alcohol. I don't think we should be buying alcohol with company money. I think that should be in the policy.
Say
you know,
non-alcoholic.
Timeframes on turning in a ticket. Did I miss it?
Says non-alcoholic.
Well, I stand corrected. And it's even in parentheses right there.
Yeah, non-alcoholic beverage, yeah.
Okay, so perfect. So scratch that one. I think we should have a limit on what's authorized, per purchase. As far as a meal, when we go somewhere, is there a dollar amount? Otherwise, someone could say, well, I didn't buy any alcohol, so I had a $200 meal. I think a $200 meal is outside of what we should be doing.
But does that get into management?
It's not a credit card policy. That's more of a.
Well, and that's why I'm bringing it up now. If that needs to go somewhere else, I like that we're doing this, but I want to know where those type of things would go, because we do say, and I just flat out missed it. I apologize, because it's plain as day right there. I do think we need to do that. And if we have a credit card policy now, I think we should walk back the amount of reimbursements we have. I've been starting to see more and more reimbursements on the check register where someone has used their personal money. If someone's, need to be going and purchasing something, we should be able to have multiple cards now, since
that's-
we've got a policy.
That
in
was,
place.
that was the whole point, was because there was only one card. And if someone had that card, then employee staff had to use, and they had to be reimbursed. But now we have what, 5? We should have 5 cards coming.
We haven't done anything, but we're headed down that road. Once we have this approved, then we'll acquire those.
So you're right. We shouldn't have as many personal, hey, I had to go to Staples and buy Staples.
Very
Now I
nice.
can use a credit card. And so we shouldn't really have that. It should be really, really limited, and just like a weird case, like someone's out at training, so we're down a card, or he's gone and, we're down another card. So you're right. It should be limited because of the additional credit cards.
If I may, Board, the amounts that will be for travel and so forth are being captured in the employment policy as well.
Perfect.
And the credit card policy will also be emphasized within that same policy.
Perfect. Awesome. Okay,
Any other?
I'll take a motion on item F.
I'll make a motion to approve it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item G, adopt order appointing general manager to act as board's designated agent in connection with the November 7th, 2023 election. Authorize such future actions as may be lawfully performed by the district's agent in connection with the election, and ratify prior actions taken in furtherance of conduct of election and take action as necessary.
So moved in English and Spanish as written.
Seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item H, approve joint election agreements and election service contracts with Bear County, Comal County, and Guadalupe County for November 7th, 2023 election, and take action as necessary. I'll accept a motion.
So moved in English and Spanish as written.
All in favor?
Aye.
Items passed. Item I, authorize general manager to enter into a joint agreement of election between Edwards Aquifer Authority, East Central Independent School District, Edgewood Independent School District, South San Antonio Independent School District, Southside Independent School District, City of Converse, City of Sandy Oaks, City of Schertz, City of Windcrest, Bear WCID, Green Valley Special Utility District, Trinity Glen Rose, Groundwater District, City of Kingsbury, Universal City, New Braunfels Independent School District, Comel Independent School District, Navarro Independent School District, Comel Independent School District, Comel County WID, and authorized entering into an agreement allowing the Guadalupe County Election Administrator, Comel County Election Administrator, and the Bear County Election Administrator to conduct the November 7th, 2023 election and take action as necessary. I'll accept the
Mr.
motion.
President, could you repeat that? I think I missed.
No, I cannot.
So moved in English and Spanish as written.
Second.
We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
One discussion item, please, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please
Um,
discussion.
There were some hiccups with some of the folks in our service
that's
area
right.
being able to vote last year for the Green Valley election. I believe you said you're working with Guadalupe County on that. Is that correct?
That is correct. We've had one meeting, have another one coming up with them. It's not been scheduled yet, but we've been exchanging information. Tracy has, I haven't, but Tracy's been coordinating with Lisa at Guadalupe County. And Aaron, our GS guy, our mapping tech, is coordinating maps with them as well.
Perfect.
Thank you.
We're going
Mr.
street
Chairman.
by
I
street,
appreciate that.
address by address.
Perfect. Thank you.
I have a question. So we don't normally go in joint with all these, do we?
It changes from year to year.
Yeah, because it seems like a lot. So that means hopefully our price will be cheaper. Possibly.
What price?
Well, we have to pay for it.
Yeah,
We
they
have to
tell
pay-
us, they tell us how much it costs after they're done.
Right, but if the
Yeah.
more we have, usually the less it is.
Sometimes,
Okay.
and then there, some of those entities may not have an election, and so they would drop out. And so, yeah, it changes, it fluctuates. Thing is we don't know what the cost of that is until after the fact and after we budgeted for it. So we always, that line item in our budget is just a projection.
Gotcha. All right, have I got a motion in a second?
Yes.
All those approved, sorry?
We need to vote. We need to vote.
Yeah, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries. Item J, review the non-standard water or wastewater service agreements provided by Green Valley SUD Legal and take action as necessary. Miss Sam. We lost her. Oh, there she is.
Okay, what we're asking for is approval of a subdivision. It's a commercial development there on 1103. It's it's actually part of, I believe, Turning Stone subdivision that was planned many years ago, but just now developing. It's that strip right there, Green Valley Road and 1103. Is that just right outside the Mesa?
From, Turning Stone to Orth, I think, on
Yes, there you
the
go.
Mesa side.
Right.
This isn't the one that backed out, is it?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Just had one that went to P and Z at Cibolo and they declined.
There was one
Or is
further
it-
down at Green Valley Road. I think it was the Salad to Go maybe, that they wanted a reduced landscape buffer for drive-through or something. I think that had to go back for a rework.
This isn't the one that was tabled?
No, that was 1103 in Foxbrook.
Oh, okay,
The
my bad.
Development's a different.
Yeah, 'cause this just.
What?
Mesa, Turning Stone and 1103.
Yes,
There's 4 commercial lots and then an unplatted remainder that's there.
I didn't know there was any lots left to be developed in.
They're the commercial lots right on 1103.
Oh, okay, all right.
So it's gonna be a nail salon, a Sonic, and a dentist.
Dentist. There's gonna be a dentist.
The
Yeah,
original residential part of Mesa at Turning Stone had a contract for non-standard water service through the district. This is just, they never had a contract and an application for the commercial lots. So they're
Gotcha.
planning those 4 lots and planning to sell and develop those.
And it's in Cibolo city limits, so they're gonna have the fire flow,
got
volumes.
Yeah,
Um,
the system over there is very,
we just relocated the lines because of the 1103 expansion, so we've got adequate
yes.
piping. I mean, that's a good shape.
all right, I'll entertain a motion on item JA, sorry. Mesa at Turning Stone?
I'll make a motion to approve the non-standard, is this just water, correct? I'll make a motion to approve the non-standard water service agreement for Mesa at Turning Stone C7, FM 1103 in Turning Stone, Cibolo, Texas 78108.
I have a motion.
I'll second.
Motion seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item K, consider the disposition and declare unit number 18, 2017 Chevy Silverado 250 HD as surplus property in accordance with Texas Local Government Code, Section 263.152, and take action as necessary. I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion to declare unit number 18 a surplus property. It's a 2017 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
Quick discussion. So on the item E1I1, the vehicle equipment layout, this one has much lower mileage than the other two that we reduced,
Right.
that we surplused.
Yes.
Things happen. Maybe it's a lemon. I just wanted to make the comment that I think John's, or Mr. Frias, excuse me, respectful of the man that's down. His request for this is going to be a useful tool so that if we can see a certain department, that one's titled to the district under the division, whatever that is. If a certain division is having consistent low lifespan on their vehicles, it's a useful management tool to take a look at them and say, hey, guys, we've noticed your vehicles aren't lasting as long and find out why.
I agree. And we do consider that. And we look at that, how our vehicles are used. should they be half ton, should they be 3/4, 4-wheel drive or not? We consider all those things, but this one in particular, every now and then, and I've been here 26 years, every now and then you have one that just causes you some troubles. It happens, and this is one of those. We've had it, like I said earlier, in 3 or 4 different shops. Cannot find the issue or the problem with the front end. We've replaced components and just tired of spending money on it. And so,
And stuff like this where, hey, this one's a problem child. That's what I'm looking for in the budgeting phase for next budget year.
I
to
agree.
say, hey, unit 18, we need to replace this year and tell us up front, we've got a 3/4 ton truck. And that would be another description. Tell us if it's half ton, 3/4 ton, 1
Right.
ton. Say, we've got a 3/4 ton truck, 4-wheel drive that's gonna need to be replaced. We're gonna need $70,000 for that because that might be what this costs to replace.
yeah, and Pam and I are working on changes to this spreadsheet. Of course, as we get the new system implemented, it'll even change again. However, right now we're going through each department and says, what are your needs? What are your wishes? Is it something you need or just something you want? Give me those lists and I'll go down that and we'll see what it looks like for next fiscal year. Knowing that probably most of that wish list probably won't be acquired. However, the needs is what I'm looking for. And I want specific types, capacities and those things. So
And I would suggest go ahead and mark this down as the need for next budget year for a capital item.
right.
And then go ahead and start making that list because we need to be getting on budgeting pretty
I agree,
quickly if
and
we
that's
have-
why I may kick it to next fiscal year. We can survive a few months this fiscal year without that replacement, but probably will need it next fiscal year.
Thank you, Mr. Sherman. Any other questions, concerns? I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item M, and Mr. Rose, I promised you I wouldn't forget you.
First of all, thankfully, finally, you're getting ready to get this, both budgets amended. I've been asking why we're for quite a while, why we're 8 months in this whole process of getting this budget back on expenditures. Mr. Hendricks, I'm not sure, you must have been really sick that day to get appointed the chairman of the budget committee, finance committee, because you've got one heck of a job ahead of you.
Nobody wants it.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So he can do it.
I lost the nose then.
To me, this action item today tells me, at least this individual ratepayer, that we've not had a very good budget process. And that's why I say you've got one heck of a job ahead of you. These numbers were drastically off in some areas on estimates. But we shouldn't be at the 8-month time frame of the budget of getting them adjusted, you know? When we started seeing these things way out of whack at the 3-month level, we should have been addressing those then. Your policies allow the general manager to move money around up to 10% per line item. And then bring it back to the board for ratification. We're now bringing them back for ratification. I think these should have been done a long time ago, all right? I think that there's been way more than 10% moved from line item to line item. And yes, the policy doesn't say when he has to bring them back to you. It just says they had to be ratified by the board, but I think your policies need to include a time frame that those items are brought back to this board for ratification. I still do not understand how, and it's a good thing that we've missed interest income at the 8-month level by over $1 million. I know interest rates went up, but please, I've got some money I'd like to invest at that numbers. Please tell me where you're getting these interest rates that we missed interest income by over $1 million. Interest rates went up, but they didn't go up. No place has gone up that much. How did we miss it that far? The other line items, like I said, you're getting those adjusted now, and that's good. And I appreciate that, but I think we waited way too long when we kept seeing, even at 3-4 months, we were 100, 200% of the budget item. We should have been addressing those a long time ago. And I know, like I said, I really look forward to your budget process this year and getting these numbers more current. And You can't hit it on the mark every time. You just gotta, there, a lot of times they're guesstimates. But some of these guesstimates last year and probably the year before, because I didn't watch it, were way, way, way off. And I hope your process, and I wish you luck on this, because this is, and you're in the middle of it now. You're in the middle of it. You've got to, you've got to get this thing, this budget for next year moving already. And now your big one, that if I read the chart right, they're recommending a 5.5% increase. You need to know if you've got that to work on your budget. At least I was guessing that they were going to tell you between 4 and 6. So I guess I hit it right. They almost hit the top end. And I'm not sure where all those expenses come from. I've got to ask for that report now that he had. I didn't and do that. So I can look at it. And I don't think it's all this building. I don't believe it is, but you've got a lot of expenses going on. The growth around here is unbelievable. I mean, it's truly a tough job. I understand that part, and I appreciate you working on it. And I know I'm over all the time complaining, especially about this building. And I'm telling you, I'm dropping it now because it's here. But nobody asked to walk out and look at these parking places out here. I just feel like that we've been lied to so much, or at least been given wrong information over the last couple of years. And that's the only thing that really upsets me. And by the way, if you guys aren't cold, it's cold in here right now. All right, thank you very much.
I was starting to,
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Rose.
maybe we need to adjust the AC.
Yes,
and how the
somehow.
thing is.
All right, moving on to item M, consider proposed amended financial and capital improvement budget for FY 2023 and take action as necessary. Do we need to approve this, Pat? Is that what you're looking for?
That's what the board's intent is, to improve amended budget. And so that's why we're presenting this.
And Mr. President, are we looking for, and it's my perception, we're looking for an approval of the annual budget separate from the capital budget, because they are two separate entities.
No, we're going to do all
I'd
at one
ask that the
time.
capital budget be
Yeah.
added back into this,
Oh.
and on the back
I
page,
don't-
it was.
Yes, and I also included additional information on that capital, where that money went for the most part, in those additional sheets behind the actual budget sheet. And what we hope to do this coming budget year is to have some more of that for the finance committee to understand. When I say we need $100,000 in that line item, why? Because this is how our trend is and how we spent that. And I'd like to address some of Mr. Rose's comments about our numbers. I take a lot of pride in our budget. And Pam and I have been working on budgets over 20 years here at Green Valley. And we've always been very close in our numbers, but I've also had board presidents tell me I keep it too tight. So it's easier to hit it's easier to bust that number. But we also know if we have a tight line item, we try to control it, and we see us going over it. We try to do maneuvering inside to limit that, but then sometimes we find we don't have any control over it. Especially since 2020, the Snowmageddon, and prior to that, the COVID and all of that in between has really changed the market. And the vendors and the cost increases, the fuel, the insurance, the parts that we used to spend $50 for now are 85 or 120. And we've just got another rate increase, and our meters have gone up $50, about $35 each. And so I'm glad we bought as many as we did this fiscal year, because it probably saved us 50 or 60 grand on our next order, whenever that day should come. They'll be higher. So that'll be dealt with the next fiscal year budget. But the numbers we have here, and I agree, when we bust a line item, that's a signal to Pam and I that we've got to pull back our spending. And so we adjusted this budget and kept it, what I feel is pretty tight. Yeah, we did move some money around. Some categories we had to move more than Mr. Rose said, Mr. 10%. But to come into not breaking that line item, we had to do that. We didn't add any money to the revenues. We just took from one line item to the next, as like I presented last month. That color coding is the difference, where I took from or where I added it to. So it was obvious what we had done. I still think it's pretty tight. Pam and I still fairly comfortable with this. We're going to do our best to try to stay within those numbers. Some are even today are getting pretty close. I don't think we need to amend it again. Pam and I looked at it again this last week. Like the fuel for generators and equipment, we're going to try to hold the line on that. We're pretty close to that percentage now. And so we've got to hold that tight. We have storage here. We have some diesel storage still next door to us. We do that in case all electricity fails here, we can hand pump it from next door. So we have plans in mind should Snowmageddon come again.
Well, I don't think that's gonna be a problem. We have 2 generators that'll fuel the
That's correct.
fuel station here.
Hopefully so, but you know, what happens if it doesn't? And so I was caught in that position in Snowmageddon and no one had fuel, so we had to scramble. Anyway, back to the amended budget. These are the amended numbers that Pam and I feel that we can live with. Some that are close to that, even 98%. We added a little bit more to those and think we can last a few months at that. Our water revenues should still increase. They've been down a little bit. We've had some rains recently. But you see this month, water sales were higher than they were last month. And I think you'll see that trend to the end of our fiscal year. We should be able to hit that number, that 14.5. We have never not hit that number. And I can show you budgets from 10 years ago and the consistency that we've been in those budgets. But I will admit the last 2 or 3 years have been tough. They've been different. Not tough, but just different. So we keep those in our thoughts as we do our budgets. And I want to explain those things to I can't wait till we have opportunity to meet with the finance committee and start working on next year because Pam and I have a goal in mind to maybe present this a little differently, even different than what we did last year. But if we'd like to look, if you don't mind, if we could go to the capital budget. And some of the things in the capital side of our budgets are always difficult because there's projects that we find we have to do that are unknown during the year. And in budgets years past, we used to put in $1 million or 800,000 or a number for those type of projects that come up that are not planned either through engineering or maintenance program here at Green Valley. And so like the repairs to Plant 2. And if you look, there's a spreadsheet. If you remember back, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, there was a vehicle that ran through the fence and damaged some components there at Plant 2. And so we did an insurance claim on that and began our repairs. But as we did that, we had subdivisions come nearby that needed that plant to help serve a higher pressure zone. And so utilizing the repairs that were going to be applied to that insurance claim, and we're not finished with that insurance claim at this point. We have a subdivision of 300 units next door to this plant that'll probably bring us in over probably $1.5 million or nearly $2 million in fees. That'll help offset the cost of that capital expense. So we went and hired a contractor, did a bid award for the repairs and the extra work and line upgrades around that plant, which was very needed. But the third thing it also did, that wasn't anticipated, wasn't planned for, it allows us to curtail the Edwards water even more than what we could in the past, which is a good thing because the Edwards, during emergency management restrictions, you have to curtail your pumping amount. And so that allows us to section up another part of our service area off the Edwards. But the improvements we did there allows us to feed it water from Lake Dunlap or even Wales Ranch at this point. So that's a double whammy on that particular project. Yes, we spent more than we anticipated. We spent more than what not so much the bid amount. We are good with our contract with our contractor. However, we did some internal work and paid some money out of reserves for the extra stuff that we did to that plant that we probably will not get reimbursed from the insurance company because it was above and beyond the damage done by the vehicle. So that's a difficult project, had a lot of variables to it, but it did all those things. And we have the ability in both reserves and upcoming impact fees on the subdivision next door to it not just for that plant, but for our whole system to replenish our reserves. And then in line items back on the budget, you'll see plant upgrades. We're 339%. And if you go to that sheet I included as an example, it's 900, 800, I believe. That's plant two. Some of that is plant two. The SCADA system was damaged. And that's part of that, that's part of that insurance claim. Back control, that's part of the SCADA system, the Tri-Hydro Corporation, the engineering we took to design what we needed to do there. Then Chromex construction, that was the part that was bid. So that 900, 800, that water capital improvements, that was not planned. That's what I'm trying to say. The capital side doesn't affect our rates so much because it's paid by impact fees, some general funds. But for the most part, if it's upgrades of pipelines, it is paid by impact fees. So, does everybody follow me? Y'all kind of look at me like,
Use impact fees to pay debt service?
what's that?
Are we allowed to pay impact fees, use impact fees to pay
Yes.
debt service?
Yes, we can. We use it as a combination. We can use general funds or we can use impact fees or a combination of the two. It hasn't been explained to me. The project 910 plant 3 pump house and upgrade. We had earmarked $1.3 million for that. We didn't do that project, so it doesn't affect our budget. That was a project that we were going to use remaining funds from USDA, about $800,000 of that, and USDA declined that expansion. Therefore, we decided not to do it. We were going to build a new pump house and some other things there. And the board allowed it contingent that we could use those funds, which would have lessened our amount to pay. That didn't happen, so we pulled that off our list to do for this year. Now, in the future, plant 3 will need to be upgraded because of the service area it serves, but right now we're okay. That'll be in a future budget. The vehicle equipment and purchase, you see the 42,959, that there again, that there's a spreadsheet there. There should be there will be a page in there that shows you what we spent so far, and that is what we actually have spent. Now, it was just upgraded on what the 2 vehicles we just purchased. Y'all approved 110,000 and we got it at 109. I just came right a little bit under that. That wasn't planned. It just happened that way. We still haven't received the other vehicle that y'all approved in January. We have not spent that money. So, but those numbers there, I think there was that number was 47,000 that was approved for that purchase of that vehicle. And to my understanding, the order that we made will still be able to use that same number. It's still a good number. So, the furniture, we had to pay the down payment for the furniture for this building. We got the, as Philip mentioned earlier in his report, the second invoice. And so we're still within budget on that number as well. So, capital side is dealt a little bit different than our general funds for many reasons. And the meter replacement, that's actually just water meters. We use them for both replacement or program as well as setting new services. Yes, we went over the budget there, but there again, I had opportunity to purchase those meters at a time. We ordered them. They were promised us to us 6 months later. All of a sudden they came in. Well, we were fearful because we were setting meters quite often and running through that inventory fairly quick. So we ordered another 1,000, thinking in the 6 or 8 months, next another fiscal year before we'd have to pay for those. They wound up 2 months later. You couldn't predict that. Don't know that. Since we've ordered those, they've gone up, what was it, Pam, $31 to $40 each? They're over $300 now. They were like $267. They're over $30 now. I mean, went up $30. So the next order will be that much higher, depending on how many we order. But so some of those things that we do to save money, knowing that those costs are going to go up, it's available to us now. We buy it now. We buy it 6 months from now, it's going to cost us this much. We do the same thing with our pipe. There's certain times of years we buy PVC pipe because the market changes. And we watch that, same thing with the brass. Brass goes up and down all the time. So our brass components, we kind of watch that throughout the year. We try not to buy in those months that we know it's normally higher. So we buy them at different times. Our new inventory system will also help us do that. So a lot of things we have going on that's not implemented yet. I think this next fiscal year is going to be a different for us. We are going to approach our budget with the committee, like I said, which is a good thing, in a different manner, with more description, more past documentation so they can understand where our thoughts are. That's all I have. Unless y'all have any questions.
Who's acting as your procurement director for pipe and fittings and everything?
Pam and I.
Okay.
Pretty much, isn't it, Pam? I mean, she works with some of the crew out in the field. We have a warehouseman who does several things. She kind of controls the ordering. And again, go back to this new system we're implementing, both inventory control, procurement system, our billing system. There's more approval built into those the new program before something can be ordered. It's not just, hey, we need this, go order it. Well, let's go down the route, go through the flow chart. You have to do these things before they can be approved. And part of that is to look at our line item. Where are we in our budget?
The only reason I mention that is in my day job as a manufacturer, inventory is dollars on the shelf. And considering the challenges that y'all are facing with actually getting the materials you need, there's got to be a fine line between stocking up and saving money by ordering it just in time. So that's a tough management process.
That is true. One other thing you'll see on next year's budget is back to the generators. There was a time period now, it was 12, 14 months before you get a generator. We did not purchase those generators. That was almost $395,000 earmarked for that out of capital asset money. Well, we'll try that again next year. We have generators at some plants that we can work that'll get us by should we come into a bad situation. With most of our plants operationally, we can bypass if we keep key locations in operation. That's kind of how we have it designed. However, we want to add some more generators so we don't have to rely on that to have more options available to us. So
I get it. It's a constant challenge.
yes.
I do have one question. So it's entirely possible I made a mistake, but with all this, we're about $40,000 increased total cost. Is that accurate? Or did I crunch numbers incorrectly? It's possible I did that incorrectly.
We shouldn't be increased because we just moved money around within the same budget.
Balanced.
Oh, Pam. Pam has a better memory on this than I do. You just shook her head yes, so maybe I answered you inaccurately.
The increase we did make on the budget has to do with our debt management. There were some numbers we did not have when we did this budget.
Okay.
And was it about 40,
37 something?
37 something? I was gonna see, there's several items, especially, our PR budget that we discussed earlier. We're not gonna spend all of that.
Right.
Do you recall where those were, Pam? I remember talking about that now. Do you recall where that increase was?
And
Off the top of my head, I'm gonna be honest with you, I've had.
And I know you guys have looked at it very closely because we brought this 2 months now. So I believe that the increases are legitimate and needed. But while we just talked about, we're not going to spend some money in PR. And we still have $241,000 and 60304. I feel like we could cut the approximately 40 that we're adding and get back to our baseline in addition to what's being proposed as cuts here.
We chose not to cut anything from that at this point because we did not know what the facilities committee or what the board wants to do for an open house. So we didn't want to.
I don't think we're going to spend $41,900.
There's something else that comes up because that's also where anything that the public relations committee wants to donate money, that's where that money's coming. So not
I bet
knowing,
we could hold off on any further expenditures there until next budget year.
And that's possible too. Like I said, we just didn't start cutting that because we didn't know where that facility, that committee was going.
And that included the new updated public
That would have been the web.
Civics Plus.
Yes, that would have been the website and all, and some of that other stuff that we've discussed that like, we're not moving forward with that. But of course, the time when we did the amendment, we weren't aware of
could
that.
temporarily cut it, Mr. Chairman, but it's gonna have to be back in there.
If we spend it. But between,
For next year.
yes, yeah, but then we can do a better, you know, a better, I say.
Just
We're
not
also gonna
spending.
have, healthcare.
Put a freeze on.
Yeah, we could,
We have,
It
Right.
should be in the budget. We don't, that, because it's in the budget does not mean we have to spend it.
Right.
That's right.
even the increase we did for our debt services payments, we did not bring ourselves into the negative as far as bottom line. It just decreased
Yep.
what we could have put into reserves.
If you look at the
versus-
far right side of that page, that 1348, that's
Mm.
at one time was 41.
Yes,
something.
it was,
That's-
it was higher.
I remember that now. I'm sorry, I didn't
Which
remember. that
GL
one.
are you on?
It
Very
should be
good,
at the
page
top of
3.
Your page on
The
the
very
regular
bottom.
amendment, not the capital side, the operational side.
Right there at 1348. That number changed there. It was 41 something or somewhere in that number range. And that's the change. That's still a positive number there. But it reduced the positive number over there because of that debt
Maybe I
management.
just crunched it.
Yeah, in reality, anytime you see a positive number on our budget, technically that should be what we should be able to put into reserves at the end of every year. So if everything went fine, we could only put about $1,000 in reserves.
Doesn't look like it, but have you compensated for our additional health that we're gonna have?
No, not at this, that
Not yet.
cost should not come until the next fiscal year,
What was that amount?
No,
because it starts October 1st. Well, it,
should be October 1st.
right, October 1st, and that'll be the beginning of our next fiscal year. So that'll be in the next
September.
budget.
Fiscal year, right?
Not on a calendar.
Right.
So our budget's on a fiscal year, not a.
Yes, our budget's on a fiscal year, and right now because of,
The insurance is on the January.
right, we'll move it to Jan, we have that double. Now, for some reason, as we're going through that process, if we find that they're wanting money prior to October 1st, then we could say we could move it from the Public Relations Committee and move it over to health
I
insurance
just,
if we
I
need
just
to.
know based on today's presentation, if you think I've been cheap before, I'm not, and I'm half joking, but I'm not. We really got to tighten up and, you know, just between those two line items, we've got $280,000 still budgeted. I don't think we need to spend that, you know, if at all possible. We've got to do what we have to do, but well, I'm serious. We've
understand.
really got to tighten up.
No, and we look at that, we are trying to tighten up. Like I said, some price increases have just kind of hit us blindsided with some of the prices we're paying, and then the delay on items that are supposed to be out 6-7 months and then they show up. So
Mr. President, you need a motion to accept these?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve item M. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Let's move on to item N. Shan, do you have anything for public comment, the pending or threatened litigation, or do we need to go to executive session?
No, Mr. President, I don't have any update on changes affecting the district or pending or threatened litigation. I can provide a brief factual summary of what's going on with the pending litigation if anyone would like to hear that in executive session. But other than that, I don't have any other item other than the issue that we talked about earlier, which is the rate issue.
And we're going in under 076 or which one was it?
071.
Oh, 07155.
OMP.
Okay. All right, I will adjourn the regular meeting and rejoin in executive session. It is now 11:54. We're adjourned. All right, it's 12:58. We're back in session. At this time, there are no items to be voted on that coming out of executive session. We're going to move on to item Q. I'm sorry, item Q is, there are no items. Item R, consideration of proposed items to be included on next month's board meeting agenda.
Mr. Cooper, I have a probable conflict during the August regularly scheduled Green Valley meeting, that I'm probably not gonna be able to get out of. I want to have a discussion, action item next month to consider rescheduling that meeting. I'll know for sure then if that meeting is gonna happen.
Thank you, Mr.
So
Sherwin.
we can have
We'll get
that one.
on there.
And then, I also want to see the updated fleet, spreadsheet. I don't know what we're terming that. With some of the
Fleet
updates.
management.
Yeah, the updated fleet management with some of the updates that I'd mentioned to Miss Pam.
Okay, thank you. We'll get that done. And we also need to schedule a special meeting for a rate analysis discussion. Need to have that added. That will not be at a regular scheduled board meeting. That will be a special meeting.
Yes, sir.
And we'll leave that to GVSUD staff to put that together.
Question, how soon do we need to have
Yeah.
that?
Well, I'm gonna
Based on
see
the
if
timeline.
I can get some dates as soon as we can. I don't know if there's particular dates. Some of y'all are not available. I think we're gonna do this in the early evening. I heard you say third Thursday.
I have a third Thursday standing meeting outside of Green Valley. And then Steve and Christie have CRWA standing meetings.
We're gonna try to do this before the July board meeting, right? The
Yes, I'd
regular,
like to,
regular
yes.
schedule, yeah.
And hopefully the rate, analyst can, provide some additional information and be present.
We'll call them this
Maybe via
afternoon.
Zoom.
We can still do online, but he had issues.
Prefer in
today.
person.
Prefer in person if they can. My request.
When we say
Perfect.
early evening, we're talking like 5:30 or 6. So like early evening is what? time?
Early evening,
6?
6.
I love 5:30. I can do earlier. So 6, I
mean, that's-
does 6 work for everybody?
I like 5 or 5:30 better, but I'll do whatever
do too.
everybody wants.
36.
Let's shoot for 5:30. Let's shoot for 5:30.
Have such a busy.
I don't want us to be limited by running out of time. Yeah.
That's why I say earlier. No, sorry. In-head voice. Had nothing to do with what we were doing.
That's all right. All right. Any other needs for the next meeting? Any other regular business? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
It is now 1:02. Meeting is adjourned.